a very short rainfall as far as the wet season is concerned. But they are able to grow these products because they have dams, irrigational dams. And so, yes, apart from that dam, I think government too is working to go to revisit the Palagu Dam, whereby our own son from the north, who has touted that he was a good son, always challenged His Excellency John Dramani Mahama during their days, that yes, he should tell what he has done for the good people of the north. He was given the opportunity, he was there. We saw the good money that he sank on the Palagu dump, where we used to have the Palagu tomato factory. And as we speak, you go there, you cannot see a wheelbarrow, what do they call it, rusted or whatever. So these are the challenges we are facing. And so just like my brother from the MPP side rightly said, that we've not been proactive enough. Yes, so if it is the issue about what do they call not being proactive, then I think that if the Palagu Dam, with the monies that they have sunk, if there had been a good start, and for us to continue, I think the issue of we going to what do they call going to Burkina to look for tomatoes, Niger to look for onions and the likes would have been a thing of the past now. And so, yes, largely, or going into the near future, I know Ghanaians, anytime something seriously of this nature strikes us, we double our efforts in making sure that it does not reoccur again. And I'm sure government is not happy about it. And so everything that government needs to do to ensure that in the coming years, we become one of the countries that produce tomato, so that we can rather see a reverse trend of we rather exporting tomato to Burkina Faso is going to happen very soon. And so, yes, I know it will be difficult. We don't, I know of no country that we can easily, what do you call it, move to get the substitute market like Burkina Faso as far as this tomato trade is concerned. And so in this short term, it will be a challenge. But we know tomatoes has a very short season. If we put the necessary measures in place within the next 3-4 months, we can get tomatoes. And I'm sure the Agri Ministry, government as a whole, will be coming up with some drastic measures so that we can face this thing off.
Mutaru, but before I do, I would want your reaction to this very question before I bring the same question to Mutaru from a security perspective to tell us. How has the absence of any Minister for Defense, in the light of what is happening or what has happened, how is that anything to worry about, the absence of a substantive Minister for Defense?
Yes, to me, I don't see it as anything that has to do with this thing. It could have even happened if we were having a substantive minister. And not having a substantive minister doesn't mean that the ministry is vacant. No, we, just like you said, we have an acting minister, and even if he is busy as he claims, we have a deputy, and then the army command is there, the military intelligence is there, we have the, what's the name, the national security is there. But I felt that yes, we, as far as counter-terrorism is concerned, and known this for a while, we could have engaged in some kind of travel advice, because I remember about 3 months ago, I wanted to convince some Japanese nationals when we visited the Japanese embassy in Ghana here to go to our part of the my constituency. You could see that, yes, even though the insecurity at our place is not as high as that of the Burkina, the national was quick to say that, yes, they have travel bans to travel in places like Boku, Upper East, and to some extent the northern part of the country. So I think that we should adopt that kind of security intelligence system and be more proactive, and don't allow our traders to feel that, oh, we used to escort them, we used to advise them, but for the mere fact that in the last 2, 3, 4 months now we've not recorded anything, you can go on your own kind of attitude, is what has led us to this stage. And right. So these are the measures that we should be taking. It's not just the mere fact that we don't have a defense minister in place, and that is why we are recording these things.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much, Honorable. Shandoff, I see you're itching to come on, but let me bring Mutaru first. I can clearly see you're itching to come on. Mutaru, How or why should the absence of a defense minister be anything to worry about in the light of what we are currently witnessing?
And I'm sure you're referring to specifically what happened in Burkina Faso.
Absolutely.
Well, the idea of having a substantive minister is a legitimate call, because if you have a substantive minister for any role, it gives you pointed focus on issues and gives you a sense of assurance that there's a leader in place, full responsibility regarding the issues under that particular ministry. And so those calls are very legitimate. But in the case of the defense minister and what has happened in Burkina Faso, there is no evidence to the effect that the absence of a substantive minister is what has led to what has happened.
Right.
In fact, if you look at the context of the attacks, these are largely operational related issues, sharing intelligence or production of intelligence and sharing intelligence and putting in measures that reflect those, that intelligence.
Right.
And those are things that are done at the operational level, and we have a full ministry with all the key elements of a ministry, including, chief director and his people. We have defense intelligence that is in charge.
You mean the Signals Bureau?
There's defense intelligence separate from Signals Bureau. There's a national security, and there's a counterterrorism unit at the Fusion Center at the national security. All of this fully augmented, fully, in charge of those, aspects of our security beyond the borders of this country. And so it goes beyond just having a substantive minister. And I struggle to see the connection between having a substantive minister and the possibility that this may not have occurred if we had a substantive minister.
Right.
But it's important that, we do not dismiss the relevance of having a substantive minister, because that is important, for a ministry. And if you, observe in relation to that, ever since the unfortunate situation happened, the event of the passing of the minister, we have seen a very prominent role of the deputy defense minister, and I'm sure you media men, you've seen that, fully active and then engaging in ways that you probably, had never seen him engage during the time the minister was still here with us. And you've seen the finance minister take up that role, and I've seen him within here and outside of this country engaging in the rules of assigned to him as a substantive minister. And so the question relating to what happened in Burkina Faso does not arise in this context.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. The question does not arise whether there is or not a substantive minister for defense. Shandov, you can now take your back.
I don't understand why we always want to play political gimmicks with some of these issues. From the instance, I spoke about human lives being important and the reason why we need to value that. Sure. When MP was speaking, he spoke about the fact that if our previous government had constructed the Palugu Dam, all of this could happen. But there's a reason why the NPP is not in government as it stands now. The NDC is the one that is in government, and they give so many promises. Once that Ghanaian at the time thought through, and they thought that, let's give these people a chance. So when you come into government, all the issues that are on the table, you deal with that. You don't sit in government and also want to blame past governments. If we had any locals, we should have still been in government. So Honorable should understand that once you are elected to form government and you are in power, you need to have that kind of responsibility on your part. And you see, it also transcends or translates into the reason why I spoke about we having a substantive minister for defense. Just because he is not like a sector minister, or maybe he doesn't maybe work in the sector, that kind of urge to accept responsibility is not like on his part. But if we had a chief, like a minister for defense, I'm not saying that occurrence would have stopped or wouldn't have occurred. But then we are going to see, somebody who is going to stand up for what has happened. And even before the occurrence, probably we would have put in some, strict measures. It's not for any reason why we sometimes even talk about the fact that there's not a clear cut of a role that our vice presidents play in this country.
Right.
People tell me to be like a ceremonial role, like and all over. So sometimes being a deputy minister does not even give you that full course and everything. Yes, we have the Honorable Ato Forson being named to be the caretaker minister. But I told you about the fact that he has economic issues to do with. The finance ministry or the finance ministry is a very important ministry that he has to have that kind of 100% focus on. So you do not let him meddle in some of these other important areas like the Ministry for Defense and issues that has to do with protecting human lives and what we have to do even in Ghana and outside Ghana. Our citizens on any other day needs to be protected, and our actions and inactions can contribute to that. So I beg to differ from what Honorable said.
Shandoff, a quick one. Have you observed the Deputy Minister for Defense lately and how he's carried himself? Yes.
In fact, like your guess as good as mine. What has he done? In fact, when we went to in this country where we had our youth lose their lives at Elwak, were we not in this country? And what has happened? Have you even seen any measures like they have put in place to ensure that some of these things do not happen? Like nobody is even up there to accept responsibility, and that is the reason why we are we take critical calls to mention
responsibility over Elwak.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What happened at Elwak?
Yes. Is that what you're saying? Nobody has taken responsibility?
No, so like I'm saying that if we had a defense minister in place, there's going to be that kind of collaboration where people or those in power or those at the helm of affairs would have known that, okay, this was the happening during maybe last year. These were the numbers that were recorded. This year, okay, these are the expected numbers. How do we put in measures not to arrive at the unfortunate incident that happened? And because we do not have somebody taking up that role, we saw what we saw. And in this particular instance, we also do not have a minister for defense to stand up to some of these things. Okay, and you say we should not talk about that. I am surprised about.
Sure, definitely.
Yes.
I think for the purpose of the records, Elwak was considered an operational failure, not on the part of the minister or the deputy.
So are you saying that if the minister was there, there wouldn't be any collaboration?
Please bear with me. The entire operation was called into question, and within 24 hours, there was a reorganization, readjustment to bring into focus the failures that occasioned the incident. Going beyond that, you found that the army quickly adjusted, and that wasn't the spectacle any longer. But I'll give you that. I'll give you that. That's no problem. I'll give you that. I mean, I know the way you do it, your NDC and the MPP stuff. I know the way you do it, so I'll give you that. That's one on honorable. Let me bring on Kwame. I know you'd want to have a bite of that, but your substantive question will be the role of ECOWAS in all of this in fighting terrorism across the Sahel.
Right, and I don't want to, dwell on the politics of it. It's really doesn't find expression in my logic at this moment, because we are dealing with a very sensitive matter.
Sure.
An issue that involves the lives of our mothers, people who feed us. But move beyond that and deal with a much more important aspect of the conversation, which has got to do with, like you said, ECOWAS and the role it should have played, in ensuring that some of these things are averted. And also bring into the conversation the importance of African Continental Free Trade Area and the fact that some of these, acts would hinder the progress, that we intend to gain relative to the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Yeah.
And also to bring into question the long-standing conversation we've had about the unification of Africa. And the movement of goods and services across the region. What has happened, really, will create a big bottleneck for the survival of the vision of uniting Africa, and ensuring that we have one common market so that goods and services can move freely across the region. Already, we are dealing with these artificial borders. And, we have made some giant strides in circumventing that. Now we're having to deal with terror attacks.
Sure.
ECOWAS has been a failure, complete failure, in dealing with the issue of terrorism in the sub-region. Complete failure.
Wow. Why would you say that?
Yes, because you see, the problem with ECOWAS is like a child that has been given a candy, like, for instance, if there is any military takeover in one of these regions, then they move in, wanting to show some might, right? But in terms of the derivative matters of security, they always watch aloof without, having conversations about, pragmatism. How can we ensure that we deal with this? How can we mobilize resources? How can we put troops together to fight terror? Even in Nigeria, the biggest economy in West Africa is faced with terrorism, and they had to now go to seek the support of the United States of America in combating their own, terrorism.
Domestic terrorism.
Domestic terrorism. That should tell you the failure of ECOWAS. Because if you have the biggest economy, and Nigeria is actually, and I keep saying this, that if Nigeria did things well, they would have been the United States of
Africa.
America in Ghana, in Africa. You know what I mean? Because they have the biggest economy. Their population is well over 200 million. So if they are having to deal with this, then what becomes of the small countries that even do not have the weaponry to be able to deal with it? Now, but the most important thing really is the betrayal of ECOWAS, against the Sahel state. That it appears that because Burkina Faso, Niger, and a few others decided to leave ECOWAS, they have left them to their fate. Forgetting that, the very reason why they left ECOWAS was also because of some of these, lack of support in the fight against terrorism in the region. It got to a time when Burkina Faso, terrorists had taken over more than half of Burkina Faso.
Wow.
So, I mean, it tells you that we have a bigger issue to deal with in the sub-region. But beyond all of these security implications, again, is what and I think it's important to regurgitate, because the devastating effect of our inability to immediately nip this in the bud is dire, that it is going to curtail a lot of things, a lot of progress. And you see, this conversation we are talking about localizing agriculture, which is, of course, very important, but also in dealing with the issue of African Continental Free Trade Area, you are talking about the fact that we should be able to trade amongst ourselves, so that tomorrow, people from Burkina Faso may say that, oh, the tomato from Ghana now is the best, so we can come to Ghana and buy from Ghana.
Yeah.
So that tomorrow we can say that, oh, Burkina Faso has also now started production in yam or cocoyam or whatever it is, so we're going to go and buy from them. There should be that fluidity in terms of trade. But all of those things will not materialize if we are not intentional about dealing with the issue of security in the sub-region. What has happened is it's a dent on our conscience. And this must be, if they have never thought of it, the time for us to rally ourselves and to mobilize all the resources and the forces that we can mobilize in order that we can do. You see, our security expert here said something very fundamental, that the terrorists do not want to make enemies of Ghana. Because in the region, that's the whole Africa, region of Africa, it is trite that when it comes to, military might, Ghana is incomparable.
Wow.
Nobody compares. And I can cite you examples of what happened in 1992-93 in Rwanda, when all the UN peacekeeping and everything, they jettisoned. And Ghana stayed and dealt with the situation. So it tells you the might of Ghana, across the, in the world. So they do not want to make enemies of us. And I'm very certain that I'm not sure they thought that Ghanaians were part of it.
Okay.
I'm sure they were just taking their own attacks. And then, unfortunately, our mothers, were involved. So clearly, it's a much more broader but very complex issue that ought to be dealt with dispassionately and non-politically.
Right.
And this is the time that all political parties, if you have any ideas, if you have any suggestions, whatever, you should bring it to the table for us to have a conversation. But one last issue, respectfully, has got to do with what Honorable said in relation to government's posture or position, particularly the agricultural minister and what it has said it's going to do. You see, I don't glorify words. I glorify actions.
Sure.
And every time I say this, that words must always find expression in a person's actions. Animals are trapped by their horns. Men are trapped by their words.
Yes.
So, for instance, by their words, and by extension, what it means is that your action will justify your words. So, it is not enough that you come and tell us that you are doing this. You have to give us a roadmap in the short term. What is government seeking to do in order that we can ameliorate some of these challenges that we are faced with? Because you see, it has food inflationary issues. That tomato right now, the price of tomato may go up.
Sure. It's already gone up. It's already gone up. Yesterday, even all the way in Upper West, a handful of tomatoes was selling for like 20 cedis.
Exactly. So, yes. So, what are the immediate measures, the short-term measures that we have put in place as a government in dealing with the foreseeable? This is not an unforeseen, because the foreseeable thing is that by reason of this action of the people leading to the death, prices of tomatoes will go up. That's a foreseeable effect. Now, what is the medium term? So the short term, the medium term, and the long term. What is the medium term plan? So that now you can bring in the issue of Pualugu to say that, okay, in the medium to long term, we are looking to build the Pualugu Dam to serve as an irrigation tool for the purposes of agricultural expansion.
Great. The Ghana Tomato Sector Losses or Association, let me say, the Ghana Tomato Sector Association has released a statement, a press statement, whose summary or crust is absolutely jaw-dropping. Let me just take the summary of that for you. The underestimation of tomato and its contribution to our economy is just jaw-dropping. 3.2 billion investment will transform tomato sector, save 600 million in imports, right? Generate 220 million in tax revenue and eliminate cross-border trade risks. This is what I'll call the summary. I'll ask my producer to project that on the screen for us so we go through it, and then we try to make some sense of all of that and see if, as a people, indeed we are helping or we have helped ourselves, given what we know. And so you have that in response to the recent tragic terrorist attack in Burkina Faso that affected Ghanaian tomato traders, the Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana, in partnership with key stakeholders across the tomato value chain, today unveiled a comprehensive national tomato production strategy 2026 to 2030. Backed by shocking economic data that reveals Ghana loses approximately 5.7 billion Ghana cedis annually, equivalent of 1.2% of our gross domestic produce, to tomato import dependency, inefficient production, and a lack of value-added infrastructure. Honorable, given this first paragraph, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel, to some extent, where I say that not being proud of myself as a Ghanaian, that we still found ourselves under these circumstances. Yes, because I think I've already laid that foundation. Why are we here? We are here because we have failed to utilize, we failed to mechanize agric. And so this is where we are now. And just like my senior lawyer said, we are going to suffer more in the coming days as far as the cost of tomato is concerned, because indicated earlier we don't have an alternative market for now. I don't know even if Niger can supply us, how we can manage to go to Niger without passing through Burkina Faso.
And when they shut their borders, all our onions go rotten.
Exactly. So yes, it's a call in the right direction. It's unfortunate that we are using the killings of our traders as what do you call it, a point or a lesson to learn out of this. But my prayer is that, just like you rightly said again, we should be the last time we are discussing this. Even if we are to talk about some of these things in the media, we should be on the sector minister, be on government, because I think the country has spent more than this. The country has gone for loans more than this amount that the sector, what's the name? There's a Chamber of Agri Business is mentioning, and so yes, so it is not though. Yes, we know that we are still struggling to reset this economy, but I think government is listening. This is a government that tries to change the system. Government, as part of the resetting agenda, will definitely do something seriously about this and ensure that, yes, we don't record some of these losses to the economy.
All right.
We save the taxes. We do everything humanly possible to improve our tomato production, and this will go a long way to strengthen our CD that is already doing well against the major trading partners like the Burkina, what's the currency? That's the CFA goat. So yes, I believe government has a listening ear, so we will quickly pick some of these inputs from the sector and then make very good use of it.
Thank you very much. Let me come to Muntaru. Muntaru, how concerned are you hearing that 5.7 billion cedis leaves the shores of Ghana annually to create jobs for our neighbors, all in the name of import dependency? And what will the effect of that be on job creation in this country for young people?
Well, that statistic may look shocking, or
it is shocking. It doesn't just look shocking. It is shocking.
But if you look at other areas, we've had repeated situations of this sort of data.
Okay.
That exposes our frailties, our weaknesses, assassination, even after half a century of independence. If you look at the statistics relating to our imports for rice, it's a much shocking reality. Even tomato paste from Italy and other parts of the world, it's a much shocking reality. And we've talked about this for so long. It's just a regular rehearsal of the problems that we have in terms of our import-exports, scenario analysis of what we should be doing, but not doing all the time. And in fact, we came to a certain appreciable situation where we were impressed about this initiative of Planting for Food and Jobs. It was a huge, huge investment that we should have taken as an advantage to break this chain.
Right.
Unfortunately, we are yet to, reap the full benefits of such initiatives. And it appears clearly, it's not the lack of ideas. We have ideas, but we lack the discipline to carry through this. The Palugu tomato factory has been a subject of conversation whenever something like this comes up. It's usually just an episodic conversation. When something like this, like Burkina incident happened, then we talk about it. And I bet you in the next 3 days, it would die off. I mean, it wouldn't be in the news any longer. And we shift to the next thing. And that we need to look at the African or Ghanaian personality, who we really are in terms of leadership and in terms of what we seek to do for our people. There's a story of a guy called Lord Lugard. He's a British governor for West Africa.
Hold your horses for me. The presidency has just released a statement, one that I'm sure you'll be very interested in. It has to do with a petition for the removal of the Electoral Commissioner and her deputies. Let me quickly take that statement and then we'll come. Kwame, why did you throw up your hands in what seemed like despair? Was it expected? Anyway, let me go for it. Following the receipt of 7 petitions from various individuals and groups for the removal of the chairperson of the Electoral Commission and her deputies, and 3 petitions for the removal of the special prosecutor, President John Dramani Mahama is in accordance with Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution and Section 15 of the Office of the Special Prosecutors Act, Act 2017 or Act 959, referred same to His Lordship Justice Paul Bafuboni, Chief Justice, on the 25th of November 2025 to determine whether the petitions disclose a prima facie case. By a letter dated 26th January 2026, the Chief Justice informed His Excellency the President that no prima facie case has been established by the petitions to warrant any further investigation for the removal of the Electoral Commissioner, Deputy Commissioners, and the Special Prosecutor. So that's just coming from the presidency. The Electoral Commissioner and her 2 deputies, as well as the Special Prosecutor, are staying put. The Chief Justice, His Lordship Paul Bafuboni, found no prima facie case in the petitions submitted to the President. Right, right. Okay, so let's take it again from the top. Well, lawyer Kwame is interested now. He wants me to do the last paragraph. And so, by a letter dated 26th January 2026, the Chief Justice informed His Excellency the President that no prima facie case has been established by the petitions to warrant any further investigations for the removal of the Electoral Commissioner, the Deputy Commissioners, and the Special Prosecutor. And that is signed by Felix Kwachi Ofusu MP, spokesperson to the President, and Minister Government Communications. On that note, we move on to look at. You want to comment? Just a comment. You know what? I'll take Kwame's request. Like Kwame, since you requested, let's. How do you welcome this?
I am relieved.
Relieved?
I'm telling you. I mean,
were you counsel for any of the persons involved?
You see, I'm a student of democracy and politics.
Sure.
And I have come to be very afraid of the trajectory of our democratic experiment. Particularly what happens to people who occupy certain sensitive positions in government in the event that a government changes. It has always been of grave concern to me. And so I was particularly scandalized when I heard in the beginning that some petitions had been forwarded to the President for the removal of the Electoral Commissioner and the Special Prosecutor. I would say this, that the democracy that we are enjoying is not because the system has deliberately created a platform for us to enjoy democracy. It is because the people ourselves have decided that no matter what the situation is, we will enjoy, or we have opted for democracy. And one of the institutions that is very important and crucial in the conversation of democracy is the Electoral Commission. And the continuing survival, or that the predictability, okay, of the occupier of that office, in terms of the fact that they'll be allowed to operate freely and without political interference, etc., is one that it's very important. That we had Afarijan, superintendent over the affairs of the EC for many years, and then became, the Afarijan that we all loved because we allowed him to make mistakes and to learn. That means that the initial decision by the Akufo-Addo administration for the removal of Charlotte Osei was a warped one. And all of us stood against it. We spoke against it. And so I was scared, that after the NDC won the election, they were going to axe, this current EC out because of the previous experiences that, But I'm so happy, extremely so, that when you read it, and when you started, I was just, I saw how you were, I was like, not again, no. But when you read the last paragraph, that no prima facie evidence has been established, I say, hallelujah, at least our democracy will be protected. At least people will not think that the mere fact that a political party has been changed, will equal or must lead to the removal of certain people who are occupying certain sensitive positions. So I'm happy. Thank you very much, His Excellency. No, let me thank His Excellency John Osei Adeoyo Dramani Mahama for not following, you know,
You
the steps of.
left out Kwame. He's your namesake. He's Kwame. So
Abi Kwame is there. We have Brace. You know, the first president was Kwame Nkrumah. The race setter is Akufo-Addo Kwame as well. So, His Excellency, thank you.
Let me move.
Let them work. Let them work and make mistakes and learn.
Shandoff, this must come to you as a relief,
Exactly.
especially given how elements within your party went to town castigating the government, accusing it of being behind the petitions. This must come to you as a relief.
Yes, it is. It is. Clearly, from day one, we in the New Patriotic Party always knew that the issues that had been forwarded to the presidency for the removal of the EC chair was without merit. And we, on several platforms, made those assertions. I mean, but then, yeah. So from day one, so from day one, I mean, like
They would have found merit if they
Kwame Ali. So from day one, we. Oh, Kwame. So from day one, we knew that this was something that was much ado about nothing. And you see, it was more of like a pre-advertised agenda to get rid of. And we spoke about the removal of the Chief Justice. Oh no! So some of these things came up, and we felt that, you know what, that like Kwame said, the trajectory that we were moving as a country was not right. And for this particular one, we saw that it shouldn't have gone through, or it should not go through. And today, the information reaching us from presidency, states clearly what our thoughts were, and even now. So I think it is good for us as a country, and for our democracy that we are practicing, that persons who go through or who fall through the cracks and rise to such such positions in this country would have the feel to serve Ghana. Other than that, like, we would be, exactly, anybody who is rising through the government offices would have this preconceived agenda that once you get to the top and there's a change in political power, you would be taken out of office. So I think it's something good for democracy. But then, for me, I think it could have waited. This is also a political diversion of the issues that we are discussing right now. We have Cocoa to talk about. Yes. I mean, it could have waited. I think like it is just to divert attention. Let's talk about cocoa. Let's talk about how we can make our agriculture sector better, so that we do not see some of these occurrences again.
Cocoa is not going away now. This is a breaking news, my brother. You must feel very proud as a Ghanaian, given that. Like Kwame said, our democracy is winning, and our democracy has won.
First of all, if you consider the kind of climate that was created between the Electoral Commission and the NDC just before elections, you appreciate that this petition from the beginning, in the minds of many Ghanaians, was intended to remove the Electoral Commissioner and their deputies. In fact, one of the last IPAC encounters at Peduasi, I was there, and the commissioner was there, the NDC was there, and their leadership, and the atmosphere created was one of serious hostility.
That's right.
It was almost impossible.
On the part of the EC?
Both sides. It was almost, there was a lot of going back and forth. At some point, the Electoral Commissioner, excused the gathering. Anyone who was there would attest to this. And it was almost impossible to imagine that the NDC would take power and for more than 1 year has not instituted measures attempting to discredit or to remove her and maybe the leadership. And so at the beginning of this petition, in the minds of many people, it was intended, the outcome had been set even before the
You thought it was a done
process.
deal.
And so this comes as a significant surprise, and of course, a very huge positive development for democracy. Of course, this is an outcome of what we can safely say is a product of the rule of law principles strengthened, good governance principles upheld. And I think that it's a feather in the cap of the NDC that this has happened. And I'm very sure that in the minds of even the New Patriotic Party, many will be shocked that this has happened, because this is not what people thought. In fact, for all of us seated here, and I believe including yourself, reading the script, the statement, you would have believed that it was intended as sacking the commissioner.
Until I read the last
Until
paragraph.
I read the last statement. And I think that all of us, irrespective of political appreciation, we must see the positive value in that particular act, irrespective of, where we stand.
Thank you. Thank you, Muntari. Let me come to Honorable. Honorable, your vindication on the accusation of being vindictive must be staring you in the face. How do you welcome that?
Yes. You see, when,
You said yes.
yes.
We move on.
You see, when you started, and by mentioning that the Electoral Commission, all of us
Became
including my
tense.
group self. You see,
We knew where it was going.
as lawyers, my senior will bear with me that sometimes when you are reading judgments, more especially when we're students in the days, you will be reading a judgment, you see the judge going by the law, the principles, applying it, and going by that, you think that, or you'll be tempted to believe that this is how the judgment will go. Or sometimes when you are even in court, just like the 2012 election petition, you could see that, how the judgment was being delivered, this will be the total or the final outcome. Before you realize, then the judge turns the arrow and say it goes the other way. I think that is what you've just done. As a man. Senior of all people who didn't even want to hear it, who could have, if he had the opportunity, would have even stopped you. Now wanted us to.
At least the charge of vendetta is no longer on you.
Yes. That's so fantastic.
Right.
Yes, this time around, just like we were not happy during the tomato and the killing of the traders, I think this is the finest time to be a Ghanaian. I am proud as a member of the NDC, the ruling government. I am proud that, yes, I am a member of parliament upon which His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is the president. There is no better time to serve, to be an MP than being an MP under, what do they call it, a very good president, a president who walked the talk, the president, the reset agenda. Even if there's someone else out there who was still having some form of doubt in him, I think this is a clear vindication. You see, I'm wondering how the MPP will feel, especially the majority leader in parliament, so the minority leader in parliament, when the petition to remove the Chief Justice came up and finally, and that subsequently led to a removal. How they reacted. This is a clear vindication that, look, this is the right Chief Justice who will ensure that, yes, the institution, that is the last hope, is being led by a fine gentleman who will not allow external pressure, allow what the majority, because I know many NDC supporters out there will not be happy with this kind of situation.
Part of the reasons you read, it was.
And so, and it's also a vindication that no political top hierarchy persons in the NDC in any way attempted to, influence the outcome of this as far as this petition is concerned. And so the institutions are now working this. And the recent Supreme Court decision against the NDC, as far as the Pandai case is concerned, yes, the days of the unanimous FC and the likes has become a thing of the past. This is the governance we want, and so yes, I am not surprised that. Maybe that may spark controversy. I'm not surprised that many people there are calling that, yes, His Excellency should go for his third time, though as a student of democracy, I may have my different views over that. But yes, if the right man is there, people may be tempted to make this kind of call, even though it may not be lawfully correct. And so yes, His Excellency, keep the reset again.
Well, I'm going to try to bust your bubble, and make it as sweet and sour as I can. It started on a very sour tomato note, and the presidency relieved you, but I'm going to bust your bubble now. Let's look at maybe 8 minutes. Let's look at the issues surrounding cocoa. Honorable, I'm going to give you the first bite of cocoa. Was there anything at all Cocoa Board, and by extension the government, could have done to avert this controversy over cocoa farmers not being paid in the last 4 months and matters arising?
There was nothing Cocoa Board, by extension, government can do as far as the late payment of cocoa farmers is concerned. Why? Because we all know that the commodity, cocoa, just like oil, just like gold, and some other commodities that I may be unable to mention their names now, prices are determined at the global markets. And so the fundamental issue that we should be asking ourselves now is whether or not the price in the world market has increased or reduced. And the only meaningful, reasonable, factual answer that you get out of that is that the price of that commodity, cocoa, has been reduced significantly. Not just the usual reduction, 10%, 5% that we know of the past. This is a significant reduction. And secondly, we know that as its price is globally determined in the market, in the international market, it is also affected by our exchange rate. And thankfully, we are in power. We have managed the local currency very well. The first time that the CD has gained stability against its international trading partners for many years. And definitely, once you send the cocoa out there, get this, the dollar, which price has already been reduced drastically, you come down to Ghana here, and with the exchange rate, it is going to suffer another price reduction as far as paying it to our local farmer is concerned.
Right.
And so I am not surprised. I am waiting for any NPP person who will come and say that, yes, it's a lie, the price has not been reduced, or even if the price has been reduced, this is how insignificant it is. And so we could have managed and then absorb the shocks and still maintain the price, or possibly increase it slightly. No one has been able to do that yet. And secondly, just like I mentioned, the appreciation of the local currency, the Ghanaian CD, as against the dollar, and for that matter, other foreign currencies, it's also real. No one you were doing the exchange rate at 17 cedis. And so even if we even choose to leave the international price reduction aside and even narrow it down to the appreciation of the CD alone, it has significant effect as far as paying our cocoa farmers are concerned. And so there is nothing you can do under the circumstances than to manage it as it is. And you don't expect, as we are in the reset agenda.
You've gone beyond your 2 minutes.
We're breaking 8. Let me just find a way to land.
8 minutes, so
as we are in the reset agenda, I don't think government is ever prepared to do that kind of going to borrow unnecessarily and then come to try to subsidize certain things and those kind of things. We are not going to do that again. Because
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me come to Muntari. Muntari, is it? Do you agree with those who say it's rather our failure to plan, or that it's even our planned and failed situation that's brought us here?
Of course, I mean, just like in many other areas, I mean, if you fail to plan, I mean, the events will plan plan for you.
Okay.
And so it's a valid statement. It depends on what specific issue you're referring to, or the context of that particular issue. The cocoa subject, it's a highly important subject because of what cocoa does for Ghana. Beyond gold, cocoa is the other gold that we have, and that everything must be done to ensure that there are no challenges in that sector. And it appears that it's a perennial issue of cocoa, the subject of syndicated loans and what it's meant to do and what is actually done, the operational aspects of the management. Cocoa farmers and their welfare issues have always been a big subject, and it's something that has never been fully catered for. Right. I hear the conversations, and it significantly centers on leadership. Okay. Leadership capacity and ability to plan and secure the interests of cocoa farmers and the interest of Ghana. If you listen to the CEO of Cocoa Board and many other commentaries relating to it, it appears that they seem to be saying that it's a product of leadership, either past leadership or current. Probably some of them are still with the team here. And I hear him make some very interesting remarks about some matters of impropriety being referred to the EOCO, and I think possibly the Special Prosecutor's Office. I think this is not enough. We needed a very serious conversation in terms of what must have gone wrong, what led to this situation. There are references to hedging the price of cocoa in the market that you barely or actually have no control. And now you are having to pay a price that you promised that was injurious to the economy. And that's why they've come to this settlement, a settlement that is neither satisfactory to the farmers nor to the Ghanaian government, because we're losing in terms of how much we have reached. If you look at the hedging, price.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Let me come to Shandoff. 2 minutes, I beg you. My producer is angry.
I think it's a very serious situation we find ourselves in, and the government, for me, has not demonstrated that they actually feel the plight of these cocoa farmers, and especially when you listen to the CEO, Dr. Randy Abbey, his posturing does not even suggest that he wants to even accept responsibility that they failed the cocoa farmers, because before they came into government, in all the political talks they made, that the best price they thought that the cocoa farmers should be paid was 6,500. Even that, they could not fulfill that promise. Now they come, to increase it from 3,100 to 3,625, and now you reduce, even further 10 million. That is 1,000 Ghana cedis, and you want us to sit, and clap for you. Our neighboring Cote d'Ivoire, today they've still maintained their price at 3,529. Are we not on the same market with them? Are you
aware cocoa farmers in Ivory Coast are not selling to the government? Rather, they're finding ways to smuggle them into Ghana, because however low our prices are, it's still attractive to them.
Whether attractive or not, we are talking about what the farmers are talking about is the amount of money that they are supposed to receive. That is the conversation here. It's not whether the market is attractive or not. And I only reminded you because you introduced Ivory Coast. So I want them to understand that those are the issues the farmers are talking about, and they need to find ways. When you were in government today, it's surprising to hear that Honorable is talking about external factors. When we were in government and we told them that some situations that we found ourselves then were due to external factors, they told us not to mention external factors. Today you want to use the back door and say during our time there were instances where markets on the international markets reduced, but then we found ways to absorb that pressure and still pay the cocoa farmers what they were due, because we understand the importance of agric in this country and what the cocoa sector means to our economy. Right. So they have no excuse whatsoever, and the government's directive to have some of the top directors' salary slashed, I think it is something like, it is a no-no for me. It does not do anything. They need to find ways to pay the farmer the 3,600. In fact, if you are unable to pay the 6,500, don't rob them of the 3,629, and that is what the cocoa farmers are talking about.
Thank you very much, Kwame. You have the final word.
Okay. So I have 2 minutes, but I actually made a.
I saw your.
I had a written submission.
I've been reading your notes.
Matter. But it beggars belief to hear MPP speak to this matter.
Rather?
Yes, to speak to this matter. In the manner that they are speaking to the matter. It's quite unfortunate, and I'll be very candid with you. I mean, he speaks about a certain promise being made prior to the election. Yes, of course, the promise was made. By the time the promise was made, there were some factors. The first question was that, what was the price of gold? Cocoa at the time. How much were you giving the farmers after selling? Right? That's the first question. The second question was, how much was the dollar? So these are two fundamental, critical, if you like, influencing factors, when it comes to gold pricing in the world market. Unfortunately, I don't have that. I would have, given you. Yeah. Then he speaks about the fact that Honorable mentions some external factors. But yes, there are external factors. The external factors include the change in the price of cocoa the world market determines the FOB price. So if the price of cocoa is coming down, you cannot reasonably expect that there will be an increment in the price of cocoa. It doesn't work like that. But beyond the external factors, it's also internal factors which was created deliberately by the erstwhile administration. And that is what brings me to the default in the performance of contract, which led to rollovers. So you are looking at a contract that was signed, which was supposed to make available over 340,000 tons of cocoa. You were not able to meet those requirements, even though you had gone for a syndicated loan of about $1 billion. So you couldn't meet you couldn't meet the obligations, and then they had to roll over the contract. So the rollover of the contract would mean it doesn't. No, I mean, please. You see, respectfully, can I? Respectfully, can I? The exigencies.
I beg you, Shandov, I beg you. He has only 2 minutes.
No, but I
He has
come on,
only 2
that
minutes.
So let me.
He's even overstepping.
Yes, you see, that's why I'm speaking very fast, because I usually like to take my time and explain. So the point is that the internal factors were so huge that they influenced the external factors. That's what is important. Now, the last internal, factor that I want to consider is about, compounding debts.
That you have a sector that was reeling and reeking of a lot of debt.
Of 19 billion.
So
I'm saying, so do the math. Which of the government added more debt? We came to meet a debt of 19 billion cedis, and now we said we
You have taken over from Kwame. You have taken over from Kwame. No, you have taken over from Kwame.
No.
Kwame,
you see, hold on. Can I respectfully?
Kwame, I'll beg of you to end now for me. I'll beg of you. I apologize.
Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to quickly just add.
Yes.
That from 1992, when we started Cocoa Board, so about 2024, 2025 thereabout, what has sustained the cocoa market is the syndicated loan. When they came, they mismanaged the syndicated loan to the extent that banks were not willing to give us, money.
Any more syndicated loans. Thank you very much, Kwame. Kwame, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Just before I go away, I have a press release from the Ministry of Finance. See, Muntari was thinking another press release from the presidency. Anyway, and so that's it. I'm going to give us the details of that press release from the Finance Ministry, and then we'll bring the show to an end. But before I do that, though, let me send out a huge plea to the head or the CEO of Star Oil. Please, your staff at Ablekuma NIC needs a new kind of orientation. I beg of you.
Which one?
Star Oil Ablekuma NIC. I beg of you. Customer service, this morning, I suffered it and I am not happy at all. It is 0. In fact, I had to ask them to shut my tank and I move on somewhere else. I beg you. Thank you very much. And so let's take the press release. Let's take the press release from the Finance Ministry. And the government of Ghana has paid 10 billion in interest obligations under the Domestic Debt Exchange Program, DDEP. The payment marks the 6th coupon settlement under the program and represents the 2nd full cash payment without any payment in kind component, reflecting strengthened fiscal capacity and solvency. The settlement covers CD-denominated DDEP coupon obligations in line with the restructuring memorandum and government's broader debt management and fiscal consolidation strategy. The timely payment sends a strong positive signal to domestic and international investors, reinforces market confidence, and it is expected to support Ghana's credit outlook while enhancing stability within the financial sector, including banks and pension funds. Government remains fully committed to meeting the future DDEP obligations, supported by strong buffers, improving macroeconomic fundamentals, declining inflation, lower interest rates, and a stable cedi. And that's the statement from the Finance Ministry to the Ghanaian public. DDEP interest has been paid. And so that is where we wrap up today. My guest has been, to my immediate left, Lawyer Kwame, one second, Lawyer Kwame Owusu Danso Esquire. Shandoff Bright Opoku Boama, and then Mutaru Mumuni, as well as Honorable Yusuf Mahmoud Esquire. In fact, I have closed.
Oh, let me say
my producer has taken me off.
See, there's an important aspect of the conclusion that should have come, because it's very important that in the face of what is happening in Burkina Faso and here, it should not undermine goodwill and confidence in our security institutions.
Thank you very much.
I work in this space that shows clearly that I'm very aware of the significant commitment of our security forces at the borders, at the Fusion Center, and national security generally. It is not to project them, but it's to state clearly that this is time that we need confidence and support for our security institutions to keep Ghana safe and peaceful as a peaceful country within the South.
No conclusion could be better than that. Thank you very much, Muntari Mumini. And that is where we draw the curtain on today's Focus. Till I see you again, keep watching GBC News.
A passenger aircraft carrying 55 people overran the runway at Somalia's main airport and ended up in shallow water at a nearby beach on Tuesday during an emergency landing following a technical problem shortly after takeoff. The airline's CEO, Ahmed Noor, said in a statement that there were no injuries from the emergency landing at Mogadishu's Aden Abdul International Airport, and the 50 passengers and 5 crew members aboard the Star Sky Aviation flight were safely evacuated. He said the aircraft overran on the runway before coming to a rest on the shore of the Indian Ocean near the airport, and there were no injuries and no deaths. Transportation Minister Mohammed Farah Noor said the rescue team managed to account for everyone aboard and that only the aircraft was damaged. He said the cause of the crash would be fully investigated. The flight was bound for the northern city of Galkayo when it developed a problem about 15 minutes after takeoff. Ahmed Mualim, director of Somalia's Civil Aviation Authority, said. Mr. Mualim said that during the attempted landing, the aircraft veered off the runway and ended up at the shoreline. At least 20 people are dead after tropical cyclone Jizani made landfall in Madagascar's main port city and collapsed houses on the Indian Ocean island. Wind speeds exceeded 195 kilometers per hour, and Madagascar's weather service issued red alerts for several regions, warning of possible floods and landslides as Jizani moved across the large island of 31 million people, many of whom live in poverty and have inadequate shelter from storms. Madagascar is especially vulnerable to cyclones blowing in off the Indian Ocean and was battered by another deadly cyclone less than 2 weeks ago. The National Office for Risk and Disaster Management said building collapses caused some of the at least 20 deaths and at least 33 other people were injured as Jazani made landfall late Tuesday in the eastern city of Toamasina. The agency said 15 people were missing and more than 2,700 people were evacuated. Toamasina, with around 300,000 residents, sustained severe damage, and authorities said the majority of the deaths were in that region. President Michael Randrianirina, who took power in a military coup in October, visited Toamasina to survey damaged and meet residents, according to videos posted on his office Facebook page. The videos showed flooded neighborhoods, homes and shops with windows blown out and roofs blown off, and trees and other debris strewn across streets. His office said around 75% of the city's infrastructure had been damaged or destroyed. Power has been cut off in Toamasina since Tuesday. On Wednesday, Jazani moved west across Madagascar, weakening a tropical storm as it moved inland, according to the National Weather Service. The storm passed around 100 kilometers north of the capital, Antananarivo, one of the regions under a red alert warning for possible flooding. The UN Migration Agency says a rubber boat carrying 55 passengers, including 2 babies, has overturned off the coast of Libya. The International Organization for Migration, IOM, announced that the only survivors, 2 Nigerian women, were rescued by the Libyan authorities on Friday. It said the boat was carrying migrants and refugees from various African countries. The boat sank after taking on water approximately 6 hours after departing from the coastal city of Al-Zawiya in northwestern Libya. The IOM says that almost 500 migrants have been reported dead or missing trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea from Libya so far in 2026. Libya has become a staging point for migrants from sub-Saharan Africa seeking to reach Europe since longtime leader Muammar Gaddafi was killed in 2011. Survivors told IOM that the rubber dinghy had departed at around 2300 local time from Al-Zawiya, west of Tripoli. It overturned several hours later in the early hours of Friday north of Zuwara. It is not immediately clear why it has taken so long for the news to emerge. One of the 2 survivors said she had lost her husband, while the other reported that her 2 babies had died, the agency said. IOM teams provided both women with emergency medical care. IOM says at least 375 migrants were reported dead or missing in January alone after a series of invisible shipwrecks in the central Mediterranean during periods of extreme winter weather. The true toll is feared to be higher. Despite the repeated tragedies, migrants continue to attempt the crossing. Conditions for migrants inside Libya are widely documented as dire. UN human rights officials have warned of torture, trafficking, forced labor, extortion, and other abuses committed by both state and non-state actors, including militia groups. IOM says traffickers and smuggling networks profit by forcing people onto overcrowded and unseaworthy vessels, contributing to the mounting death toll. The agency has urged stronger international cooperation to dismantle smuggling and trafficking networks alongside the creation of safe and legal migration pathways to reduce deaths at sea. Many vessels that sink are never reported by the people smugglers who operate them. Those who die simply vanish, their families left without ever knowing what happened to them. Several countries, including the UK, Spain, Norway, and Sierra Leone, have called on Libya to shut down detention centers where rights groups say migrants have been tortured, abused, or killed. Eritrea has hit back at its neighbor Ethiopia, describing accusations that its troops were on Ethiopian territory as false. On Saturday, a letter sent from Ethiopia's foreign minister to his Eritrean counterpart demanded that the soldiers withdraw. It also accused Eritrea of outright aggression, saying it was conducting joint maneuvers with Ethiopian rebels in the north and supplying them with weapons. In its response, Eritrea said this was part of a spiral of hostile campaigns against Eritrea for more than 2 years. There has long been a history of tension between Ethiopia and Eritrea, which split off from its larger neighbor 3 decades ago, and there are fears of a renewed conflict. The countries fought a border war between 1998 to 2000, in which more than 100,000 people died. A peace deal was never fully implemented, and relations only eased after Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who later won the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts, traveled to the Eritrean capital Asmara in 2018. The two had been allies in Ethiopia's recent civil war when Eritrea supported its army against Tigrayan forces, but things have once again soared. One of the points of tension is the call from landlocked Ethiopia for access to the sea, which PM Abiy has described as an existential matter. He said that losing a port as a result of Eritrean independence was a mistake. In his letter, the foreign minister said that if Eritrea's soldiers withdraw, then the two countries could start talks, including over the issue of access to the sea through the port of Assab. Last week, in a further sign of deteriorating relations, PM Abiy said for the first time that during the 2020-2022 civil war in Tigray, Eritrean troops had massacred people in the Ethiopian city of Askum. These were allegations Eritrea had previously denied following reports of mass killings that took place in the historic city in November 2020. In shifting alliances, Ethiopia now says that Eritrea is supporting rebels in Tigray who oppose the peace deal that ended the civil war.
Zimbabwe's cabinet backed draft legislation that would change the constitution to extend presidential terms from 5 years to 7, allowing President Emmerson Mnangagwa to stay in office until 2030. Other proposed changes in the bill presented to the cabinet on Tuesday include a provision that the president be elected by parliament rather than through a direct popular vote. Others include allowing the president to appoint 10 more senators, boosting the Senate to 90 seats. Justice Minister Zeyambi told a news conference the bill will be sent to the Speaker of Parliament and published in an official gazette before lawmakers consider it. A cabinet statement said the amendment passed will enhance political stability and policy continuity to allow development programs to be implemented to completion. President Mnangagwa, 83, is currently meant to step down in 2028 after serving 2 5-year terms, and there has been a succession battle in the governing ZANU-PF party over who will take over. He came to power after the military ousted long-term leader Robert Mugabe in 2017, and opposition politicians have condemned moves by his party to extend his term in office. The governing party's 2030 agenda has been on the cards for months before it was announced the party position, prompting opposition figures to pledge to defend the constitution against its capture. Jameson Timber, a senior leader in the Southern African country's fractured opposition movement, said the cabinet's approval of the changes is politically destabilizing. ZANU-PF has governed Zimbabwe since independence from the United Kingdom in 1980. It has a 2/3 majority in the lower house of parliament and also overwhelmingly controls the upper house through traditional leaders and other proxies who generally vote with it, allowing it to change the constitution. Analysts and opposition figures have said any constitutional changes would also need to be put to a national referendum. Elected in 2018 and re-elected in 2023, President Mnangagwa has been accused of allowing rampant corruption and of suppressing human rights, while Zimbabweans endure hardships despite a growing economy. Attempts over the past months to demonstrate against the plan to keep him in office met a police crackdown that put many people in jail.
Kenyan cult leader Paul Mackenzie and 7 others linked to a doomsday sect were issued with new charges on Wednesday over the deaths of 52 people whose bodies were found in shallow graves in southeast Kenya in 2025, a court charge sheet showed. Mr. Mackenzie and others were already facing charges including murder and terrorism in connection with the deaths of people whose bodies were exhumed earlier from Shakahola Forest in one of the world's biggest cult-related disasters in recent history. Prosecutors say Mr. Mackenzie and his Good News International Church organized a cult in which they ordered followers to starve themselves and their children to death to go to heaven before the world ended. Mackenzie has denied the accusations. By 2025, 2 years after investigations began, prosecutors said more than 400 bodies had been recovered from Shakahola Forest, which is located in Kilifi County on Kenya's east coast. Investigators widened their focus to other suspected grave sites, and by August 2025, 52 bodies had been recovered from shallow graves in and around Kwa Benzaru, which lies around 30 kilometers from Shakahola. Mr. Mackenzie and other defendants appeared before a magistrate in the city of Mombasa on Wednesday for a joint plea taking in the latest case. Prosecutors say he masterminded and oversaw the offences at Kwa Benzaru, continuing to direct them after his detention in 2023 and using methods that included radical teachings to draw victims to the remote site. In late January, Kenya's Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, ODPP, said in a statement that the court heard that investigators recovered handwritten notes from prison cells occupied by Mr. Mackenzie, allegedly detailing financial transactions conducted through mobile phones. The charge sheet said the defendants faced counts including murder, participation in organized criminal activity under Kenya's organized crime law, and offences linked to radicalization and the facilitation of terrorist acts under the country's counter-terrorism framework.
Nine people have been killed and at least 25 injured in shootings at a school and home in British Columbia, Western Canada. 6 victims were found dead inside Tambla Ridge Secondary School, which is around 415 miles north of Vancouver. A 7th died on the way to hospital. 2 more people were found dead in a home nearby. Police believe the shootings are connected but can't say definitively. The suspect's body was found at the school with a self-inflicted injury. Footage shows students evacuating and officers arriving. Authorities say they know the attacker's identity but have not revealed their name and gender. Earlier, A shelter-in-place alert described the suspect as a female in a dress with brown hair. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney says he is devastated, while British Columbia Premier David Eby says officers' swift response meant the tragedy was prevented from being significantly worse. A student at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School said he and his classmates got tables and barricaded the doors during the shooting. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police said more than 25 people were wounded, including 2 who were airlifted to hospital with life-threatening injuries after the shooting at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School. School shootings are rare in Canada, which has strict gun control laws. The town of Tumbler Ridge in the Canadian Rockies is more than 1,000 kilometers northeast of Vancouver, near the provincial border with Alberta. The provincial government website lists Tumbler Ridge Secondary School as having 175 students from grade 7 to 12. A video showed students walking out of the school with their hands raised as police vehicles surrounded the building and a helicopter circled overhead. Canada's government has responded to previous mass shootings with gun control measures, including a recently broadened ban on all guns it considers assault weapons. Tuesday's shootings were Canada's deadliest rampage since 2020, when a gunman in Nova Scotia killed 13 people and set fires that left another 9 dead.
A crowd linked to Yemen's separatist Southern Transitional Council, STC, has attempted to storm a local government building in the southeastern Yemeni city of Atak, leaving several dead, according to local authorities and sources. The Security Committee in Shabwa Governorate said armed fighters assaulted security and military personnel and fired live ammunition during Wednesday's attack, resulting in casualties as official forces intervened. It is the latest eruption of violence consuming the conflict-ridden and impoverished nation. The deputy head of the Shabwa General Hospital Authority said 5 people were killed and 39 wounded when security and military forces dispersed demonstrators affiliated with the STC. Local sources said that supporters of the STC had organized a march in Atak before heading towards the local government building, attempting to storm it and remove the national flag. The attack came days after the Saudi-backed Presidential Leadership Council, PLC, the executive body of Yemen's internationally recognized government, announced a new cabinet with diverse political and regional affiliations as part of efforts to govern the divided Arab nation. Last month, the PLC established its hold over southern Yemen with the backing of Saudi Arabia after an STC attempt to take control over 2 southern provinces failed, leading to the latter's collapse and dissolution and the withdrawal of United Arab Emirates forces which backed the group, according to Saudi and Yemeni leaders from southern Yemen. The Security Committee in Shabwa said it would take action against anyone proven to be involved in inciting or planning action or using weapons, urging citizens to resist any calls to get involved.
The death toll from the collapse of 2 residential buildings in the northern Lebanese city of Tripoli has risen to 15. The Director General of Civil Defense said 8 people were rescued alive. He said that 2 adjoining buildings were home to 22 residents, but local municipal authorities warned people could still be missing. Social media footage captured the moment the buildings collapsed, with one side giving way at the lower floors before both structures fell almost simultaneously. The latest disaster is the 5th residential building collapse in Tripoli this winter, highlighting growing concerns over old and under-maintained buildings in Lebanon's poorest city. The footage shows a thick cloud of dust and debris engulfing the street as the buildings folded in on one another. After the collapse, large crowds gathered around the site of a crater where the buildings had stood. The mayor of Tripoli said the city has suffered long-term dereliction. He said thousands of their people in Tripoli are threatened due to years of neglect, and the situation is beyond the capabilities of the Tripoli municipality. He later announced he has submitted his resignation to the interior minister, describing Tripoli as disaster-stricken. President Joseph Aoun said he was monitoring development and called on rescue workers across the country to mobilize. Prime Minister Nawaf Salam described the building's collapse as a humanitarian catastrophe and said the government was ready to help. The collapse comes days after residents were evacuated from a nearby building following structural cracking, and 2 weeks after another deadly collapse where father and daughter were killed. Tripoli is Lebanon's second largest city and has seen repeated building failures amid years of economic crisis, lack of maintenance, and weak regulation. Last month, the head of Higher Relief Authority said more than 100 buildings in the city required evacuation warnings. Many residential blocks across Lebanon were built illegally or without permits, especially during the 1975 to 1990 civil war, while others have been expanded with additional floors without proper oversight, authorities say, leaving thousands at risk, especially during the cold and wet winter months.
Iran marked the 47th anniversary of its 1979 Islamic Revolution on Wednesday, as the country's theocracy remains under pressure both from U.S. President Donald Trump, who suggested sending another aircraft carrier group to the Middle East, and the public angrily denouncing Tehran's bloody crackdown on nationwide protests. The commemoration represented a split-screen view of life in Iran, with state television showing hundreds of thousands of people across the country attending pro-government rallies, which included the burning of American flags and cries of "Death to America." The night before, as government-sponsored fireworks lit the dark sky, witnesses heard shouts from people's homes in the Iranian capital Tehran of "Death to the dictator." Meanwhile, President Masoud Pezeshkian got on stage at Azadi Square in Tehran and insisted that Iran is willing to negotiate over the nuclear program as fielding nuclear talks with America hang in the balance. In his speech at the anniversary ceremony, President Pezeshkian also insisted that his nation was not seeking nuclear weapons and are ready for any kind of verification. However, the United Nations nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency, has been unable for months to inspect and verify Iran's nuclear stockpile. On Iranian state TV, authorities broadcast images of people taking to the streets across the country Wednesday to support the theocracy and its 86-year-old supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Others criticized Iran's crown prince, Reza Pahlavi, who had been calling for anti-government protest. Iranian missiles were on display, as were fragments that authorities described as being from drowned Israeli drones. Fake coffins draped in the American flag could also be seen, one bearing the picture of a U.S. Navy Admiral Brad Cooper, the head of the American Military Central Command. Among Iran's 85 million people, there is a handline element of support for Iran's theocracy, including members of the country's powerful Parliamentary Revolutionary Guard, which crucially put down the protests last month in a bloody suppression that killed thousands and saw tens of thousands detained. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, has closed the airspace surrounding the Texas border town of El Paso for 10 days. Local authorities, including the El Paso International Airport and City of El Paso government-confirmed flights, would not take off or land from Tuesday at 11:30 p.m. to February 20 at 11:30 p.m. City Council member Chris Canales, who represents an area on the southwestern side of El Paso, said local authorities did not receive any advance notice or reason for the closure. The FAA said in a statement that the restrictions were for special security reasons. Long-term airspace closures are rare, as the FAA website said. Since 2018, it has cut airspace closures from an average of more than 4 hours per launch to just more than 2 hours. The restriction is over a 10-mile radius around El Paso, which includes part of southern New Mexico west of the town Santa Teresa. Mexico's Ciudad Juarez is just south and west of El Paso, and U.S. Army Base Fort Bliss and White Sands Missile Range lie to the north. Fort Bliss is a military post focused on training, and White Sand Missile Range is the country's largest overland testing range for missiles, rockets, and advanced weapons. In a post shared by City of El Paso on Facebook, El Paso International Airport confirmed all flights were grounded, including commercial cargo and general aviation. The statement said travelers should contact their airlines to get most up-to-date flight status information. The airport describes itself as the gateway to West Texas, southern New Mexico, and northern Mexico. Southwest, United, American, and Delta all operate flights there, among others.
Japanese stocks surged to a record high on Monday as Prime Minister Sanai Takaishi's Liberal Democratic Party basked in a historic election victory. The LDP secured 316 out of 465 seats in Sunday's election, the first time a single party has won a two-thirds lower house majority since Japan's parliament was established in its current form in 1947. The Japan Innovation Party, the LDP's coalition partner, won in 36 more constituencies, taking their combined total to 352 seats. The resounding mandate is a gamble that paid off for PM Takaishi, who now faces the challenge of reviving Japan's moribund economy and tackling cost of living woes. The Nikkei 225 index rallied by more than 5% in early trade on Monday, briefly crossing the 57,000 mark for the first time. It then gave up some gains but still closed up 3.9% at a record high of 56,363.94. The LDP's decisive win will help PM Takaishi advance her pro-business policies without having to negotiate extensively with opposition parties. PM Takaishi told reporters on Sunday that she would pursue a responsible yet aggressive fiscal policy and would not reshuffle the cabinet, which was formed less than 4 months ago. Japan's first female prime minister called the snap election last month, just a few months after taking office in October. Her success is in marked contrast to her two predecessors, under whom the party lost its parliamentary majority, battled corruption scandals, and struggled to keep rising costs. Market commentators say PM Takaishi's policies could boost the Japanese economy. Historically, low inflation in the country has made it very sensitive to the rising cost of living over recent years. At this election, voters at polling stations said they were worried about the increasing cost of groceries and rent. The economy is also under pressure from the country's aging population, which has seen a shrinking workforce and ballooning social care costs.
Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show was one big love letter to his native Puerto Rico, culminating in a message of pride in his home and the Americas and an appeal for unity with the U.S. The 14-minute set included guest performances from Lady Gaga and Ricky Martin, along with cameos from the like of Pedro Pascal, Cardi B, Karol G, and Jessica Alba, who could be seen dancing on the porch of his famous casita, a staple of his shows designed to look like a traditional Puerto Rican home. The 31-year-old, who was the world's most played artist in 2025, according to Spotify, made history by becoming the first musician to perform entirely in Spanish at a Super Bowl, which is normally the most watched event on US TV. He did choose to say one line in English, "God bless America," before listing nations of Central, South and North America as dancers carried their flags. Behind them, a billboard message read, "The only thing more powerful than hate is love," and he held a football at the end of the segment bearing the slogan in English, "Together we are America." However, Bad Bunny, real name Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio, did not use his performance to make any explicit political statements against the current U.S. administration. Despite that, President Donald Trump, who did not attend this year's Super Bowl, called Bad Bunny's set absolutely terrible and one of the worst ever on his social media platform Truth Social. He added that it was an affront to the greatness of America and that nobody understands a word the guy is saying. An alternative event, the All-American Halftime Show, was organized by Turning Point USA and was headlined by Trump-supporting singer Kid Rock. Bad Bunny's performance in Santa Clara, California, marked the first time the singer and rapper had performed in the United States, except for shows in Puerto Rico, since releasing last year's Grammy Award-winning album Debí Tirar Más Fotos. Puerto Rico, which is a self-governing territory of the USA, was at the heart of everything in this performance, from his early emergence from a sugarcane field to a set that was meant to represent the sounds and sights of the place he calls home, transporting himself through a Latin landscape with set pieces that included everything from a nail salon to a bar. The Grammy Award winner reeled off a medley of his biggest hits, including Titi Me Pregunto, Monaco, and Baile Inolvidable. Family also featured heavy, from a young couple getting married in a crowd full of Latino dancers to the symbolic moment of Bad Bunny handing his Grammy Award to a small child as his 2026 acceptance speech played on a small television. Climbing an electric pylon, symbolizing the infrastructure that was ruined during the devastating storm, and rapping at the same time, he appeared to pay tribute to the people who died in the 2017 Hurricane Maria. Lady Gaga was on hand to bring a salsa-inspired rendition of her Bruno Mars collection, Die With a Smile, and fellow Puerto Rican pop star Ricky Martin sang Lo Que Le Paso a Hawaii, a song which warns Puerto Ricans to not allow their culture to be erased. Sunday's show represented the best of Latin culture on the sporting world's biggest stage.
He's not just any Kwame, he's Kwame the TV license legend. Kwame knows that by paying his TV license, he's supporting GBC, our public service broadcaster, and he's making a real difference. Kwame's contribution helps bring our communities closer together. Because of Kwame and others like him, we will all have access to amazing TV programs, educational content, plus broadcasting infrastructures are maintained and our culture is beautifully promoted. So GBC is asking all to respond to this civic obligation and pay your TV license fee. For individuals, it's 3 CDs per month or 36 CDs per year. If you have multiple sets, meaning 2 or more in your household, it's 60 CDs per year. For commercial institutions, it's your number of TV sets by 36 CDs per year, and you pay the invoiced amount directly to GBC. So let's all take a moment to appreciate Kwame, the TV license legend. Wherever you are, just dial *447*333# and follow the prompt. It's your civic duty, so pay your TV license today. GBC, the authentic and trusted voice of Ghana.
The erratic rainfall patterns and rising temperatures are pushing communities to the brink, with flooding and droughts posing a constant danger to the global economy. The looming catastrophe is threatening the environment and lives.
If you say the first share of the climate change or the climate variability, it has been with us every year, and this year the rainfall season will still have its first share.
Keep the warming temperatures below 1.5 degrees Celsius.
It indicated that earthquake can also increase,
which will tell you that yes, an earthquake is coming.
I, Kekubotin, now invite you to join me to unveil the dual dangers, impact of climate change on flooding and earthquakes using scientific research and investigation.
Of all the planets in the solar system, Earth is unique in its ability to support life. As a result, it serves as our home and our environment, providing the necessary conditions for a diverse range of organisms to thrive. However, this beautiful planet, Earth, has been profoundly affected by carbon emissions, heat-trapping greenhouse gas concentrations, degradations, deforestation, and pollution, among other factors. These elements are already having widespread effects on the environment, a phenomenon caused by human activities, christened climate change by scientists. As population keep increasing, most people have settled at places with very deplorable conditions for human settlement, thereby exposing them to many diseases. It is a well-established fact that the world is facing the wrath of climate change, but the African continent has been profoundly classified as the most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. Located in West Africa is Ghana, a beautiful country with its capital city, Accra, where many citizens have settled in environments that can be considered hazardous. Some of these areas could be classified as death traps. The waterlogged areas are often filled illegally with refuse to reclaim the land before any construction can commence. Buildings erected on such land tend to have weak foundations, and many develop cracks over time, posing a risk of collapse. The residents of these places often experience psychological trauma when they become aware of the looming danger posed by climate change.
Because it's only was a saying to Bola. I have a beer walk by high Bola.
And a man, I do say.
Oh, a month, first no day, Tengana. As you see, I was on to, I'm better now, me cover like 3 years.
Nina, toilet in the
toilet in your shower soon.
It's so soon.
Obi to me free. No, what it take away. Say, Bibi na wo ba ebi oh nti o mhwe na like if you are no mfa mu so mu kasa na like o mu so mu boy
you know what when you do this council problem which we don't know how to solve it.
Isaac Kunwan Wambele, a geoscientist, detailed geological aspects of the earth.
Usually is the rocks that weather to form the various materials that we have. Whether it's soil, it's clay, it's laterite, it is the rocks that weather to form those things. And you realize that in a lot of cases, the waterlogged areas are usually areas overlain by various types of clay. And because of that, penetration is low and they become waterlogged. Once they are waterlogged, it means that if you are to do development in those areas, you must be very careful because the clay is not as strong.
An environmental and climate scientist, Dr. Henry Kokofu, highlighted the pressing environmental issues related to climate change.
Urbanization is nothing bad, but unplanned urbanization is the issue. Where we do not have dedicated land for development, delineating the physical structures from the natural ecosystems that will serve its purpose of helping mitigate climate change, then you have a problem. So you go to advanced countries, economies that are doing well, they have strict land spatial planning mechanisms that tells you can build here, you cannot build there. Even when you've built, you have got to incorporate some form of green or vegetation cover, tree planting, shrubs, and other things that will augment the natural systems to work. So, by our way of doing things, that goes out again to attitude now, by way of not adhering to regulations, by way of not enforcing existing regulations, have all contributed to that. So if people are talking about urbanization and climate change, it all boils down to planning. If we do plan and plan well, employment of technology.
Eric Kofi Afenope, Deputy Director in charge of climate change at the Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development.
So poverty is also, bringing a lot of challenges. So I'm just mentioning this because if government would have to address, issues of flood vis-a-vis how human beings haphazardly get exposed to this, then it means that we need to address even some issues that are indirect, not just the direct issue. We need to address some of the root causes, things that make people difficult to go by certain situations, certain compliances, to do what is right. We need to address some of the issues, psychologically, socially, economically.
Timothy Osafu Efum, Director of Public Relations at the Ghana National Fire Service, expressed concerns about inappropriate structures and land demarcations.
One method of extinguishing fire is what we call starvation. So we can decide to demolish some of the buildings so that it will only isolate that structure that is on fire. So these are some of the methods that we use when we get to areas like this that are inaccessible for the fire tenders to get to.
In 2010, some children were playing near structures of Bobese in Accra. Tragically, one of the buildings collapsed, resulting in serious injury to a young boy. The boy's father, who chose to remain anonymous, expressed deep concern.
And then we say, so I could 15 years cry to me, I could transfer Bunije, and then I touch my caca.
Obanukwana Sadi, a tonana.
Though no one does, but me running the Ninia Baku coming, but in India when practice, but me banning you prep, and then out a tonic. I am to teach some Kodavico people, but immediately found command. The Krubiana said, or mine Biano, and a brownie Biasono, or him I in charge. 2 passes here, but she on here, so I say, be crowd your crab or here in your movie.
Painstaking observation has clearly shown that environmental pollution is significantly exacerbated by improper refuse disposal, inadequate drainage systems, and to a large extent, poor town planning. Regrettably, the consequences of these actions are not limited to environment alone. It is estimated that from 1974 to 2023, more than 1,800 buildings collapsed due to substandard construction practices, killing and injuring thousands of people.
With the collapsing structures,
what cost?
A number of those collapses, the moment we hear of it, we send our technical team. We send a team of geologists and geotechnical engineers to the site to look at, investigate, and see what could be the possible cause of those structures. Remember that it may not just be the subsurface that has caused the failure.
Okay.
It could also be the actual construction.
Okay.
It could be the type of material used. So when it gets to those ones, we are handicapped. But when it comes to issues of the subsoil, which deals with the geology, then we are able to advise and we are able to speak to the condition on the ground. And a number of the failures that occurred from our preliminary investigation showed otherwise. So we think that maybe people are not constructing according to the design or not using the right type of professionals and even the materials.
Human activities are making natural climate change worse, leading to rising temperatures, extreme weather, expanding deserts, and poor air and food quality. These changes affect our physical and mental health.
So when we talk about climate change, basically it's about emission of carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. You know, when fires occur, these are the substances that are emitted into the atmosphere.
And the greenhouse gases, notable among them is the carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxides, and all that. So air pollution through emissions into the atmosphere that goes up there to disturb the ozone layer, which serves as a shield against the direct sun rays onto the Earth's surface.
Scientists say these emissions cause sunburn, skin cancer, and cataracts in humans, as well as damage crops, marine life, and the planet as a whole.
And the main target is to keep the warming temperatures below 1.5 degrees Celsius. That's the target. We are being told, the scientists are saying, that we've already surpassed 1.5 degrees Celsius, and we may be heading towards 2 degrees Celsius, which is more dangerous, and we cannot survive under excessive high temperatures.
Of course, with climate change, it will get very hot in the north. So then the most important thing you can do is keep shade, trees, but cover, to make sure you are not exposed to full sun.
Felicity Ahafianyo, a meteorologist, climatologist, and forecast at the Ghana Meteorological Agency, explained the intricate phenomenon of climate change.
Climate change more is to do with us as human beings. It's a human-induced phenomenon that is affecting us, because it has to link with the global warming, whereby we know that rainfall, convective rainfall, depends more on energy. And as the energy available for cloud formations also increase, definitely you have the numbers of extreme weather events also increasing over the sub-region.
The extreme weather events have hit several countries, including Brazil, Burundi, Egypt, Kenya, and Ghana. In May 2024, Ghana experienced intense thunderstorms and heavy rains, causing destruction, uprooting trees, and damaging properties around Ghana's international airport in Accra. In September 2023, the Akosombo Dam in Ghana experienced a controlled spillage due to heavy rainfall, resulting in the worst flooding. This flood displaced over 26,000 people in the Volta region, caused extensive property damage, including homes and farmlands along the banks of the River Volta, and disrupted essential services in the affected areas. Climate change results in more intense rainfall, which increases the chances of flooding on Earth. As temperatures rise, the atmosphere's capacity to hold moisture increases approximately 7% more for every 1 degree Celsius of warming. Additionally, climate change amplifies the occurrence of extreme weather events, including stronger heat and dry conditions, resulting in parched soils. Parched soils increases the risk of flash flooding when it rains.
Some of these low-lying areas, which are waterlogged, are very prone to flooding. And you can see that, especially in the greater Accra region, that's what we call the Accra Plains. They are flat, and drainage becomes a problem. So with a little rain, you see that the whole area is flooded, and that becomes a challenge because percolation, or penetration of water into the ground, is restricted. For that matter, it is always better that in such areas, in developing them, the drainages should be properly designed and constructed, and calculations made to be able to take the volumes of water that will come from the rainfall, so that we don't have the situation where we have flooding here and there, and also people must desist from developing in waterways, so that the flow of water can be easy and we can reduce the amount of flooding that we record every year.
In terms of climate change, relating it to the temperatures, on record, we have some stations that has ever reported 43 degrees Celsius. We have some stations also that has ever reported 45 degrees Celsius over the north. But when you glance through the data, the maximum that dominates is between 38 and 40 degrees Celsius. But there are years that we have some variations, either up or a little bit below that. If you move to the middle sector too, they also have +1 or 2 in terms of the increase in the temperatures over their area. Likewise, Greater Accra. But most of the time, what normally contributes is how we are closer to the sun, and then also the water bodies that we find ourselves surrounded with. Once there is evaporation and it's water vapor, we know it is the heat that is generating that water vapor, and so we have the heat in there. So also adapt to it to make the environment a little bit uncomfortable for us.
Studies show that 3 main types of flooding happen as a result of rainfall. These are pluvial flooding, known as surface water floods, fluvial flooding, or river floods, and coastal flooding, often caused by storm surges.
And those are major floods we have within our sector in Ghana. But there are other forms. Somebody will say coastal flood, somebody will talk about urban flood. But urban flood is almost like the flash flood. And it happens normally when the surface is paved and then you don't have enough drainage system. And so the water is available on the surface because they will flood. And then, of course, the sea level rise, where there's a lower coast, the sea level rises a bit and inundates the coast that is nearby. And of course, there are rivers that overflow their brink. We just remembered the recent, Volta River.
We have the water bodies that we all know, the lakes, the streams, the ocean. We have them, as the sun heats, they evaporate. It goes into the atmosphere and then it forms clouds. Once the clouds are matured, it starts to fall as rain. And if it falls as rain, we have some that percolate into the soil and then go into the underground water table. And then we have some that comes as runoff that we all know that some results into floods. All these things also go back into the oceans or the river band, or the rivers and the streams that we have.
Ghana experiences flood disasters every year, resulting in loss of lives and property. In urban areas like Accra and Kumasi, floods are triggered by seasonal rainfall, and it is predicted that flood risk will get worse as rainfall classified as heavy is projected to increase between 2010 and 2050.
Three major you would be hearing of: the north, the Wotan Basin, and then the Greater Accra. But Kumasi has emerged a lot, and it comes with so many economic challenges. And sometimes the economic loss is not just the money, but the time that people would have to be relocated, people would have to, even the socio-economic cost, the stress, the emotion, all this. If you want to quantify them, it's a lot of loss to the people of Ghana.
Every year comes with variations when it comes to the rainy season, likewise the dry season. Last year too, we also had the dust all over the country. Visibilities were less than 200 meters over most areas. But then this year, some areas reported 100 meters. And this case was in foggy conditions, not with the dust alone. So we have variations. So definitely, if you say the first share of the climate change or the climate variability, it has been with us every year. And this year, the rainfall season will still have its first share.
The National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, report indicates that between 2015 and 2020, Ghana recorded 1,446 flood events, which caused 309 injuries and 510 deaths, and 54,744 houses being inundated, and the destruction of 136,563 acres of farmlands. Between 1970 and 2019, Africa recorded economic losses of around $38.5 billion due to floods and storm disaster.
We all had a common attribute of climate vulnerability. We are all suffering from the effects of climate change, and we all have had telling effects of climate effects on our economies.
The scientists have disclosed that climate change could cause more earthquakes and volcanic eruptions by increasing the weight of water on the Earth's crust. When glaciers melt, the water can seep into cracks in the Earth's crust, causing them to widen and weaken.
They are not very strong. In terms of strength, they are not. What they rather have is they have plains. And because they have plains, with a little saturation, they slip. And that is the thing we experience up that range. Sometimes you hear that the slopes are filled and they are even blocking the road. Because as water percolates through these weak zones, it will definitely fail.
People say hurricane intensity, storm tornadoes would increase because of climate change. People also indicate that earthquake, because of the reaction, formation of or the occurrence of climate change, is as a result of some heat. Without heat, earthquake cannot happen, but it indicated that earthquake can also increase.
Statistics showed that Asia, Europe, America, Africa, and the Red Sea have experienced thousands of earthquakes due to high levels of seismic activity.
The data shows that Ghana has not been spared by the earthquakes. On 24th June 2020, an earthquake with a magnitude of 4.0 struck 17 kilometers, 11 miles of the epicenter. Upon lives in Kaswa, and Nana Kwame also lives in Accra, the two shared their terror about the devastating effects of climate change.
Of course, I've been living in this residence for the past 15 years, and we have been experiencing earthquake occasionally. Last year, when it happens, most of the buildings cracked, and it was very, very dangerous. We are also facing these flood issues, which is also another big problem to us.
If care is not taken, climate change will wipe all living things on this earth or planet.
Places like these areas are prone to earthquakes due to seismic activity. A geological survey has revealed.
One of the mandates of the authority is to advise on geohazards. And if we are talking about geohazard, it means hazards that are emanating from the geology of the area. For example, it's a hill. The rocks there have formed a hill. It's the geology that makes the area. we know that if it's a hill, depending on the type of rock, the slopes of the hill may not be stable. Some rocks are competent, others are not. So if it's a competent rock, yes, failure may not be an issue. But if it's an incompetent rock, like let me take the Abri Range,
okay,
where the rocks there are mostly the Togo series and the quartzites and schist and all those kind of rocks that are not very competent. The Weja area has been an area that, I mean, it's been known, and geologically, we've said it severally, that in terms of earthquakes, that is the most prone area to these natural occurrences.
The impact of seismic activity that causes an earthquake are beyond imagination. In the aftermath of flooding, higher water temperatures accelerate the growth of waterborne pathogens, which encourage the outbreak and spread of deadly diseases, including cholera and malaria, and the negative effects do not end there, where those affected struggle with their mental health. The fight against climate change requires collective action, from individual adaptation to global cooperation. Every step counts. Together, we can build a more resilient future for Ghana and communities around the world. Kweku Bolton reporting.
Hello, very good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on News Hour at 2, where we bring you updates of happenings in and around the world. I am Rahmatu Mahmoud Jawando. You can also join us via Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Following the receipt of 7 petitions from various individuals and groups for the removal of the chairperson of the Electoral Commission and her deputies, and 3 petitions for the removal of the special prosecutor, President John Mahama, in accordance with Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution and Section 15 of the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act 2017, Act 959, referred same to the Chief Justice, Justice Paul Bafo-Boni, on November 25, 2025, to determine whether the petitions disclose a prima facie case, according to a release signed by the spokesperson to the President and Minister for Government Communications, Mr. Felix Kwachi Ofosu. By a letter dated January 26, 2026, the Chief Justice informed President Mahama that no prima facie case has been established by the petitions to warrant any further investigations for the removal of the Electoral Commission, chairperson, deputy commissioners, and the special prosecutor. Meanwhile, panelists of GBC Current Affairs program focus were unanimous that democracy has been upheld in Chief Justice's announcement that no prima facie case had been established by petitions to warrant any further investigations for the removal of the Electoral Commission chairperson, deputy commissioners, and the special prosecutor.
I am relieved. I'm a student of democracy and politics.
Sure.
And I have come to be very afraid of the trajectory of our democratic experiment. Particularly what happens to people who occupy certain sensitive positions in government in the event that a government changes. It has always been of grave concern to me. And so I was particularly scandalized when I heard in the beginning that some petitions had been forwarded to the president for the removal of the electoral commissioner and the special prosecutor. I would say this, that the democracy that we are enjoying is not because the system has deliberately created a platform for us to enjoy democracy. It is because the people ourselves have decided that no matter what the situation is, we will enjoy, or we have opted for democracy.
It is good for us as a country and for our democracy that we are practicing, that persons who go through or who fall through the cracks and rise to such such positions in this country would have the feel to serve Ghana. Other than that, like, we would be, exactly, anybody who is rising through the government offices would have this preconceived agenda that once you get to the top and there's a change in political power, you would be taken out of office. So I think it's something good for democracy.
At the beginning of this petition, in the minds of many people, it was intended, the outcome had been set even before the
You thought it was a done
process.
deal.
And so this comes as a significant surprise. And of course, a very huge positive development for democracy. Of course, this is an outcome of what we can safely say is a product of the rule of law principles strengthened, good governance principles upheld. And I think that it's a feather in the cap of the NDC that this has happened. And I'm very sure that in the minds of even the New Patriotic Party, many will be shocked that this has happened.
I'm wondering how the NPP will feel when the petition to remove the Chief Justice came up and finally, and that subsequently led to a removal. How they reacted. This is a clear indication that, look, this is the right Chief Justice who will ensure that, yes, the institution, that is the last hope, is being led by a fine gentleman who will not allow external pressure, allow what the majority, because I know many NDC supporters out there will not be happy with this kind of situation.
Part of the reasons you read, it was.
And so, and it's also a vindication that no political top hierarchy persons in the NDC in any way attempted to, influence the outcome of this as far as this petition is concerned.
Let's now go over to the MPP headquarters where the General Party Secretary is addressing the media.
Former party executive, former MMDC, former member of parliament, former parliamentary candidate, serving or former assembly member or former government appointees, and an opinion leader in the constituency. These are the area or the pool from which the Constituency Election Supervisory Committee can appoint the members of the polling station election committee from. Again, all polling station elections committee shall not conduct more than 10 polling station elections without the prior approval of the National Secretariat. So what it means is that those 3-member committee that has been appointed as polling station elections committee, they can only conduct elections for 10 polling stations, only 10 polling stations. Outside the 10, they have to get clearance from the National Secretariat. Most importantly also, members of the polling station elections committee shall not be eligible to contest in the polling station elections, electoral area, or constituency executive committee elections. What it means is that if you harbor any interest to become a polling station executive, electoral area executive, or constituency officer, you cannot directly be part of this exercise. You cannot be a member of the polling station elections committee, because once you have an interest, you cannot be part of this committee. We don't want any interest in this process. The polling station elections committee shall adopt the venue for polling station meetings as venue for the conduct of the polling station elections within the time frame approved by the National Council. What it means is that the polling station elections committee are supposed to conduct the polling station elections at the venue where the polling station meetings are held. So therefore, you cannot choose a different venue. You cannot use someone's house, you cannot use someone's place to do the polling station elections, or let that place the venue for the polling station meeting. All this is important to ensure that there's credibility and transparency in the conduct of the polling station elections. Then the venue and dates for the polling station elections must be widely published by the polling station election committee at least 4 days to the scheduled date for the elections. So if there's going to be a polling station, the notice must be given at least 4 days before the polling station elections are conducted. And voting shall be conducted between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. Again, it is important that the polling station election committee, for them to conduct any polling station elections, they can only do so within the hours of 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. The voting shall be by ballot or head count where there are 2 or more aspirants, and by acclamation where there is only 1 aspirant. Again, the nomination fee, anyone who wants to contest at the polling station election shall pay 10 Ghana cedis. 10 Ghana cedis for the forms. Therefore, you know, we are very considerate and we understand the hardship that Ghanaians are going through. So at least we need to sympathize with those who are aspiring to contest for positions. Another
That was live from the NPP headquarters, where the General Secretary of the party, Mr. Justice Kodua, addressed the media following a crucial National Executive Committee meeting held yesterday as it charts the course for its internal elections. The party is expected to clarify its controversial shift in approach, having already conducted its presidential primaries in a top-down process, departing from its traditional bottom-up electoral structure. You are watching News Eye here on GBC News, your news and governance channel. You can also join us via Facebook at Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. On 14th February 2026, a group of Ghanaian tomato traders were ambushed near Titao in northern Burkina Faso by armed jihadist militants. 8 of the traders have been confirmed dead, with several others injured. Most of the women survived the initial assault. Market communities in Ghana, especially in places like Techiman, are mourning and demanding improved support and investment in local agriculture following the tragedy. The Vegetable Producers and Exporters Association of Ghana is calling for strengthened local tomato production to reduce reliance on risky cross-border supply routes. We have on the line a security analyst, Richard Kumadu, to tell us more. Hello, good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
Thank you for joining us. What does this incident highlight in terms of regional security?
I didn't hear. Your line is breaking. I'm not hearing anything.
I said, what does this incident highlight in terms of regional security?
What is leading to what?
What does this incident highlight in terms of regional security, sir?
Sorry, I can't hear a word.
Can you reposition yourself? Can you hear me now?
No, it's breaking, but you can try.
What does this incident highlight in terms of regional security?
You said what has led to what? I didn't hear the question.
The incident, I mean the tragedy that happened in Burkina Faso, what does it mean in terms of regional security? I think welcome back. We lost him there. We would try to get him. Let's take a breather. We're back shortly.
In 1965, Ghana chose her own value. From cowries and pounds, the city was born. Our pride in our own hands. It flowed through markets, palms, and memories, and became part of daily life. Through every season of change, the city has remained a constant in Ghanaian life. In 2007, we took a bold step, ushering in a new era of confidence and stability. Today, the city lives in banks, markets, and apps, rooted in tradition, shaped by history, carried by innovation. 60 years on, it remains our heritage, our identity, our pride. Know the city. Keep it clean.
Hello, welcome back. Hello, sir. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Thanks for joining us once again.
Thank you.
So earlier on, what I was trying to say is that what does this highlight, this incident highlights in terms of regional security?
It's a known fact that Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, or the Sahel region has suffered drastically from the hands of terrorism. For we in Ghana, even though they are not part of the ECOWAS region, we enjoy considerable high levels of relationship with them in terms of political governance and geo-governance and regional cooperation. So intelligence from Ghana between the Sahel region will always be shared. So we don't have any difficulties at all with them.
So then, how would you describe the response from the Burkinabe authorities?
I think they were very sweet when they got to them that terrorists walk into the Titao market. They got there as quickly as possible. My understanding is that they took out some of the terrorists. Some of them ran away. Those who stayed back, the hunt for them was on. And that kind of response, the quickest way to respond was what they did, and we commend them for that.
Okay then, also the incident shows how close terrorism is to Ghana. Do you agree? And if so, what will you advise?
Where they happen is about 400 kilometers away from Ouagadougou, deep down to Burkina Faso, closer to the topmost part of Mali. So that cannot be said to be closer to us. If we are saying that we are part of the West Africa regime, and the regime is characterized by acts of terrorism, that 100% perfect. But to say that because a terror attack happened 400 kilometers deep into Burkina Faso, that cannot be said to be closer to our border.
Okay, there has been discussions on travel advisories or the need for such traders to have security escort. Is that workable?
No, I haven't heard that one. This is not a state trading with the state of Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
If they are having difficulties within Ghana, our law enforcement officers have escorted them before, but you cannot put your paratroopers on the land of Burkina Faso. You can't send your commandos to Burkina Faso. If you ask Burkina Faso to lead them, they are going to create what we call the permissible environment. anything they cannot protect within that environment, they will not agree. Anything they cannot control within that environment, they will not agree, because this is a nation at war with terrorists. And so that is the difficulties we face with this thing.
So finally, before you leave us, what advice will you give to traders who rely on cross-border chemists?
The Minister of Foreign Affairs has given elaborate traveling warning signs and advice on what to do, what not to do. The President, the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, said that particular region is a dangerous one. Richard Kumado is saying that because it's a dangerous one, if you want to go there, make sure you have your travel risk assessment outcome and be abreast with it. Make sure you have your personal security protocols and make sure you have your safety guidelines closer to your chest. Other than that, weigh the cost, and while the cost of death is higher than the opportunity cost, stay back.
Thank you so much, sir, for your time. That was Mr. Richard Kumado with that update. Former Deputy Executive Director of the National Service Authority, Giftio Oware-Mensah, has filed an application at the High Court in Accra to halt her trial. Oware-Mensah, through her lawyers led by Gary Nimakumafo, has filed an application at the Court of Appeal challenging an order by the High Court to file her witnesses. They have also filed an application asking the trial court to halt proceedings pending the determination of the appeal. Following the development, the court presided over by Justice Audrey Kukovite has ordered the prosecution to serve the affidavit in opposition to the application for stay of proceedings. Madam Giftio Oware-Mensah has been dragged to court for allegedly causing a 38 million cedis financial loss to the state in the National Service Ghost Name scandal during her tenure, but she has pleaded not guilty. She was granted a 10 million cedis bail on 22nd October 2025. The case is adjourned to March 9, 2026. Efforts to make governance more inclusive in West Africa are receiving renewed attention as stakeholders push for greater involvement of young and women and young people in political leadership. In the capital, Accra, experts and policymakers have gathered at the regional consultation organized by the Economic Community of West African States to examine practical ways of removing barriers and expanding opportunities for women and youth in decision-making.
Women empowerment remains central to the drive for fairness, social progress, and economic growth. Recognizing this, experts from across the sub-region are meeting in Accra to design strategies that will help women and young people take up stronger roles in governance. The consultation, convened by the Economic Community of West African States, is bringing together policymakers, gender advocates, and development partners to build a shared understanding of women's leadership and political inclusion in West Africa. Opening the session, the Chief Director at the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, Dr. Afisa Zakaria, said women are steadily gaining space in governance and public administration across the region. She stressed that empowering women to lead is critical to building balanced and forward-looking societies.
Ghana, we've moved a step forward. We now have a vice president who is a woman. We have women who are occupying various leadership positions. I'm standing here as a chief director, and I'm a woman. I have my colleagues who are equally chief directors. There are many directors. Our director gender is also here, who is also a woman. So I would say that Ghana, we are doing well. Yes, there is still room for improvement.
The consultation aligns with global commitments under Goal 5 on gender equality adopted by the United Nations, which promotes equal opportunities and full participation of women in political and public life.
For human capital development, to be effective and get citizens to contribute to political participation and economic participation, You can't really do it without women and youth. That's the reason we are here. That's the reason we are joining forces, okay, with the Gender Center in order, to review what has been done, okay, what is to be corrected, so that for the next 50 years, we give a better direction to, gender parity in our sub-region.
The outcomes of the consultation are expected to guide future regional policies, encourage legislative reforms, and strengthen democratic governance across the ECOWAS sub-region.
An event to mark the importance of libraries in national development at the Accra Technical University, students were entreated to use libraries as a hub for learning, research, and innovation. A former librarian at the Data Link Institute, Mr. Patrick Ogbaguna, said the role of libraries is evolving with emerging technologies, and this places responsibility on learning institutions to upgrade their facilities to make research easier.
Speaking at the event, Mr. Ogbaguna said access to credible information and digital resources is strategic in a knowledge-driven economy where success depends on information literacy, research competence, and the ability to navigate global knowledge systems. The former librarian touched on the value of libraries in shaping students beyond the classroom. He also encouraged students to develop strong reading habits to upgrade their knowledge. Mr. Ogbaguna emphasized that the role of libraries is expanding beyond traditional shelves to providing electronic resources, digital databases, academic support services, and training in research and information skills. He said university libraries in the country must operate in this direction along with print materials.
Let's be guided that the information we find in libraries are credible information based on credible research work. They are not prophetic books. They are not dreamers, or fictions. They are real books that have addressed real issues across the world.
The Accra Technical University librarian, Dr. Florence Plocky, said through international support, the university's library has been upgraded to improve access to both print and digital materials.
We do so many things, but we don't make it public. People don't know what we are doing. So that is why we say that today we are using visual stories, that is the photo exhibition, to tell our story for the world to know and see what we are doing. We are not just there behind the shelf, but we do more than to contribute to knowledge creation.
The event had the theme, Your Library, Our Story.
The Ghana Health Service is concerned about the rising cases of cancers in the country, with a total caseload of 18,104 last year, 34% increase over cases recorded in 2024. The Ashanti Regional Director of Health, Dr. Fred Adumaku-Boateng, who made this known in Kumasi at a media briefing, mentioned breast, cervical, and prostate cancers as the most recorded cases among adults, while brain tumor and leukemia are rising among children.
The media briefing was part of the Ashanti Regional Directorate's commemoration of this year's World Cancer Day, which is celebrated on February 4 every year to create awareness about the disease, its causes, symptoms, effects, treatment, and prevention. Data from the Ghana Health Service show that in Ghana, new cases of the disease are rising at an alarming rate among adults and children. Last year alone, more than 18,000 cases were recorded. The Ashanti Regional Director of Health, Dr. Fred Adumaku-Boateng, mentioned breast, cervical, and prostate cancers in adults as the most prevalent in the region and contributing substantially to the national tally. He said 937 breast cancer cases were recorded in the region last year, compared to 561 cases the previous year.
Key warning signs to watch for, including a painless new lump or swelling, unexplained weight loss, persistent fatigue,
changes in bowel or bladder habits. Colleagues, when you begin to see this, it's important to take steps because you don't know the cause of this. What are some of the signs and symptoms that you see in our children? Unexplained pain, bones and joints. They won't allow you to touch any of these, of those areas. Unexplained swelling or lumps. It can either be in the stomach, what we typically term as abdomen. It can be at the neck, or it can be at the armpit, what we call the axilla.
Dr. Adumako Boateng said even though cancer is curable, late detection, low access and fragmented care are factors that undermine survival rates. The regional director of health advised that while the Ghana Health Service is ramping up efforts to reduce the cases, adoption of healthy lifestyles can prevent cancers. In a related development, the regional director of health also expressed concerns about the increasing cases of epilepsy in the region and misconception about the causes.
I call on all stakeholders, community leaders, religious leaders, media, and the public to join me in making a concrete and taking a concrete action this year. First and foremost, let all of us stop the stigma, because epilepsy is treatable.
The regional health director advised people to protect epileptic patients from danger during seizures since the consequences could be dire.
The Deputy Minister for Food and Agriculture, Don Domelo, says agricultural mechanization must be seen as a tool to empower farmers and improve livelihoods, not a replacement for human labor. He was speaking at the inauguration of a new agricultural mechanization center in the Eastern region.
I can confidently indicate that not a single tractor is sitting in our yard. Every one of them is on the field today working. The establishment of the Farmer Service Center is to grant unimpeded access to agricultural mechanization to all Ghanaian farmers, wherever you are located in this country.
How soon?
Yeah, we have started the process. We have started with 50 of the centers. We have identified the areas. We are working on documentations on the land. And we have also started the process, the procurement process, to procure the equipment. We are bringing in 5,000 plus units of equipment. We are bringing in 660 tractors. Assuming every tractor, each of the tractors is being manned by 2 people, 1 driver and 1 supporting staff. That alone will create a lot of jobs for the people. And then in every center, we are setting up a maintenance section where we train people on how to maintain the tractors. So you can imagine the number of jobs that we are thinking about. Thousands of jobs will be thrown out there. And once you bring producers and the processors together, certainly the jobs will be everywhere for people.
A baby who was allegedly stolen at the Mamprobi Hospital in Accra has been found and safely reunited with the mother. The alleged baby thief has also been arrested. The suspect, a woman, was apprehended by the Ghana Police Service at Dansoman and it's currently assisting with investigations. The Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Dr. Agnes Namumulati, expressed relief at the safe return of the baby and commended the police and all stakeholders involved for their swift intervention.
The incident is said to have occurred on Tuesday, February 17, 2026, shortly after the mother delivered. According to some eyewitnesses, the suspect, who was dressed as a nurse, was captured on CCTV footage leaving the hospital premises with a baby wrapped in a sack. The baby was allegedly taken from the facility, triggering panic among staff and patients. Police have confirmed that the suspect is in custody and assisting with investigations. The safe retrieval of the newborn has brought relief to the family, but there were mixed reactions from some of the community members. In an interview with GBC News, some residents believe the security system at the hospital must be expanded and improved on surveillance. Members of Parliament from Ablekuma South, West and Ododiodo constituencies, Alfred Okovandapoy, Alfred Kote Ashi and Reverend Kweku Ado played key roles in coordinating with the police and the hospital to ensure the arrest and safe return of the child.
There's more justice. It will only happen. We will make sure it will never happen again.
The Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Dr. Agnes Namumulati, addressed the crowd, expressing relief at the safe return of the baby.
We've been able to unite the baby with the mother, and I think that it is a good thing for us. Moving forward, the most critical thing we need to look at is making sure that it's not only the physical security as in positioning a security officer at the gate, that is important, but through the documentation from when the person enters the health facility right till the person exits. We need to look at all of those trails and the systems that we have in place.
She pleaded with the constituents and other patrons of the facility to remain calm and continue on patronizing the services of the hospital.
Let me just assure Ghanaians that, especially the people within Mamprobi and its environs, that this is a one-off situation. It shouldn't let it be so, then the image of the facility so badly that they will say they will not access health care here. All of us know that Mamprobi Polyclinic is one of the best when it comes to delivery and mother and child care. And so this incident that has happened is an unfortunate one.
The father of the baby, Muhammad Ajimai, thanked the police and other stakeholders for the swift assistance offered him. An undisclosed amount and some toiletries were presented to the family.
Meanwhile, the police has been addressing the media on circumstances that led to the arrest of the alleged baby thief at the Mamprobi Hospital. They cautioned all, especially health facilities, to be vigilant and report all suspicious characters or activities at the facility.
The Nansuman Divisional Police Command of the Ghana Police Service has arrested suspect Latifa Salifu in connection with the stealing of a 4-day-old baby boy from the postnatal ward of Mamprobi Hospital here in Accra. The arrest follows swift police investigations and public cooperation after the incident was reported on Tuesday, the 17th of February 2026. On the 17th of February 2026 at about 10 a.m., one Abigail Jukinu, accompanied by Henrietta Abe Blessed, reported to the police that an unidentified woman disguised as a nurse and had stolen a newborn baby from the hospital's postnatal ward. The baby's mother, Precious Ankoma, informed the police that she delivered the baby boy on the 14th of February 2026. She stated that a woman dressed in a nurse's peach-colored uniform took the baby under the pretext of administering medication and disappeared thereafter. Police immediately visited the facility, obtained statements, and immediately launched a manhunt for the suspect. Today, at about 3:40 this morning, the police arrested a suspect, Latifa Salifu, who is 33 years of age and is a cloth seller here in Accra, at the premises of Kolebu Teaching Hospital, where she was found with a baby suspected to have been the missing child. Suspects claimed that she had delivered at the hospital and was discharged due to lack of birth. However, police investigations at the hospital revealed there was no records to support her claim. The suspect is currently in police custody, whilst arrangements are underway to place the baby under hospital care for safekeeping, further investigations, and medical attention. We expect that for hospitals and health facilities, we enforce strict identification protocols for staff and for visitors, ensure babies are released only after proper verification, install and monitor CCTV systems in maternity wards and other wards, including entrances. We also expect that we maintain visitors' logs and restrict access to postnatal wards.
The directors of the Ghana Airports Company Limited has inspected ongoing works at the new Hajj village under construction at the Kotoka International Airport Enclave. The ultra-modern complex is expected to provide a comfortable and efficient environment for pilgrims before their departure. Members of the board were taken round the facility by the management of GACL and the contractors, who provided updates on the various components of the project and the timelines for completion. The visit is part of the board's effort to familiarize itself with the progress of the project and to assess the quality of work done so far. The new Hajj village project at the Kotoka International Airport is steadily taking shape, with officials expressing satisfaction over progress of work. The sod for the project was cut early last year, following a strong commitment to improve facilities for Ghanaian Muslims who embark on the annual pilgrimage to Mecca and Medina. The Hajj village will include a fully equipped terminal for passenger processing, a recreational center for pilgrims who often spend several days at the facility, and a clinic to handle medical emergencies. The board chair of Ghana Airport Company Limited, Mr. James Agalga, was impressed with the progress of work and was confident the project will be completed within the scheduled time.
I can confirm that the board is very, very, very excited and happy about what we have seen on the ground. You know, the Hajj village itself has a terminal building for passenger facilitation. You have a recreational area because normally what happens is that when the pilgrims who usually would embark upon the journey to Mecca arrive, they stay here for quite a number of days. And so it's important that you have a recreational facility so that, you know, the pilgrims can exercise their bodies.
The Ghana Airports Company Limited is not directly funding the project. The facility is being constructed under a land swap agreement where the contractor is financing the project in exchange for the old Hajj village land. The director of the project, engineering and construction, Reverend Solomon Ajaso Adija, spoke about the progress of work.
Contractually, we have up to 30th of April, but as you are aware, we had a bit of challenge just before and after the sword cutting to do with the approval on the master plan, because there were a lot of discussions to have the mosque here, to have the mosque there, to have the mosque here. Eventually, it took a bit of time to have approval to carry on with what we have now. Therefore, we will be coming back to make an application to help us meet our completion.
The Hajj village is expected to be completed by the end of the year. More than 1,400 newly admitted professional law course Part 1 students have been officially inducted into the Ghana School of Law. At the auditorium of the UPSA, the Chief Justice, Justice Paul Bafo-Boni, advised the students not to allow their backgrounds or setbacks to discourage them from achieving their goal of becoming lawyers. The theme for the 2025-2026 academic year induction was Charging New Directions in Legal Education, Diverse Career Opportunities Emerging from Reforms.
The ceremony was held for inductees from 3 campuses, including Ghana School of Law main campus in Makola in Accra and satellite campuses from Gimpa and UPSA. 2,000 out of over 4,000 candidates were admitted to the Ghana School of Law last October after successfully passing the entrance examination organized by the Independent Examination Council of the Ghana School of Law. The ceremony was to formally introduce the students to the school. In an address, Professor Raymond Atuguba, the acting director of the Ghana School of Law, called on students to rise to the dignity of the profession they seek to pursue. The Chief Justice, Justice Bafo Boni, said out of a number of 4,000 students, 2,000 were admitted. He urged the students to justify their inclusion by learning hard. The Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Dr. Dominic Ayine, said the Legal Education Reform Bill currently before Parliament seeks to expand access to legal education with maintained standards, transparent admissions, stronger supervision, and national examinations. He urged the students to take their training seriously by mastering the fundamentals and also guard their integrity as potential lawyers.
The new Legal Education Reform Bill represents a decisive shift from a restrictive system to an enabling, accountable, and future-oriented model.
The Vice President of the Ghana Bar Association, Victoria Bath, described the induction as a defining moment in the students' journey and reminded them that the legal profession was a service and not an entitlement, and that integrity must guide ambition while service anchors success. Mrs. Bath told the students to be abreast of emerging opportunities in legal technology, artificial intelligence, environmental and energy law, compliance, corporate governance, and alternative dispute resolution as areas of growth.
The Students' Loan Trust Fund has inaugurated a Northern Zonal Office in Tamale to expand access to tertiary education financing and improve loan administration across northern Ghana. The new office is expected to serve the increasing number of universities, technical institutions, and colleges of education in the northern sector, where enrollment has steadily risen over the past decade.
The Students' Loan Trust Fund says decentralizing its operations will not only encourage more students to apply for financial assistance, but also improve loan recovery rates, an area that has historically challenged student financing schemes. Tamale's growing reputation as an educational hub makes it a strategic location for the intervention. Stakeholders are optimistic that the new zonal office will help reduce bureaucratic bottlenecks and support higher completion rates among disadvantaged students. The office will offer in-person services such as loan application support, biometric validation, and repayment arrangements. Deputy Minister for Education, Clement Apak, said the decentralization of SLTF services is expected to reduce delays and improve verification processes through closer collaboration with tertiary institutions.
Infrastructure expansion without financial reform creates an imbalance. Financial reform without institutional efficiency creates delays. And that is why today's commissioning is to ensure that both of these challenges are adequately addressed.
The Chief Executive Officer of the Trust Fund, Sajida Shiraz, described the Tamale office as a demonstration of the government's commitment to inclusive development and improved public service delivery.
For the Students' Loan Trust Fund to recalibrate functionally toward the achievement of our core mandate, we have embarked on the most significant set of reforms in the history of the fund, which include the introduction and implementation of the full suite of low stress policies and complementary initiatives to enhance the tertiary education experience for Ghanaian students.
The Northern Regional Minister, Adolf Ali John, and the Deputy Minister for Roads and Highways, who is also the Member of Parliament for Tamale North, Al-Hassan Suhini, commended the government for bringing the Students' Loan Trust Fund closer to the country's most vulnerable students. They noted that the initiative will significantly ease the financial burden of school fees for many students in northern Ghana.
Welcome back in business. The government has announced the payment of 10 billion cedis in interest obligations under the Domestic Debt Exchange Program. In a statement issued on Wednesday, February 18, 2026, the Ministry of Finance said the payment represents the 6th coupon settlement under the program and the second full cash payment made without any payment in kind component. The ministry explained that the settlement covers cedi-denominated DDEP coupon obligations in accordance with the restructuring memorandum and the government's broader debt management and fiscal consolidation strategy. It noted that the timely payment demonstrates improved fiscal strength and solvency. According to the ministry, the development also sends a positive signal to investors and strengthens confidence in the economy. The Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, ICU, Ghana, and the General Agricultural Workers Union, GAU, of TUC have lauded the government for the measures outlined in reforming the operations of cocoa board and the cocoa industry as a whole. The two bodies, however, kicked against the recently announced salary cuts of management as it will adversely affect staff morale and negatively impact productivity.
So released by the General Secretary of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, Mr. Morgan Ayawene, and the General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union, GAU, of TUC Ghana, Mr. Andrews Adokwe Tego, noted that the deteriorating operations of cocoa board and PBC in recent times have raised significant concerns among stakeholders about the sustainability of the economy, considering the fact that cocoa remains a major mainstay of Ghana's economy. The statement applauded the measures taken by the government to reform the cocoa industry, with emphasis on the new financing module that will enable Cocoa Board to allocate 50% of the total cocoa produced in Ghana to CPC and other local processing companies for local processing. This initiative, according to the ICU and GAU, will promote value addition and job creation, thereby benefiting the large number of unemployed youth in the country. Additionally, the statement noted that the offloading of Cocoa Board's legacy debt to the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana, as well as the automatic adjustment of producer prices to align with movements in world market prices, exchange rates and other variables, will have a monumental and positive impact on Cocoa Board's operations and the national economy at large. These measures resonate strongly with the position and representations of ICU Ghana and GAU of TUC Ghana to the government regarding the financial and operational challenges facing Cocoa Board and PBC, which the unions have consistently advocated for since last year, which will give the Cocoa Board and PBC a new lease of life. While the statement commended the government for the timely intervention to save Cocoa Board, PBC and ultimately the cocoa industry in Ghana, the unions vehemently opposed the decision to reduce the salaries of senior and management staff of Cocoa Board, as this may adversely affect staff morale and negatively impact productivity. The unions indicated that the decision to reduce the salaries of senior and management staff of Cocoa Board, some of whom are unionized, by 10 and 20% is totally unacceptable, given that management of Cocoa Board took this decision without recourse to the rules of engagement required by the labor law and the collective agreement with the relevant social partners, namely ICU Ghana and GAU of TUC Ghana. In view of this, the unions are demanding a reversal of the decision and engagement with the unions on the way forward. ICU and GAU cautioned that moving forward, management of Cocoa Board, its units and other stakeholders in the cocoa industry must play their respective roles effectively to sustain the growth and development of the cocoa industry. It added that there is also the need to create structures and systems that will insulate Cocoa Board from external pressures and partisan politics if the country is fully committed to ensuring the survival and sustainability of the cocoa industry.
Let's now have the interbank rates and commodity prices for the day.